Not very ceremonious for our heroes at all. And it's kind of sad to see. The stupidest thing. Okay, this is really fucking stupid. So obviously, Kinnikuman himself is like, you know, he's the guy who saved the world multiple times, right? And in one of the fucking Ultimate Muscle chapters, they're like, nobody knew. It's 28 years after the Scramble of the Throne. Nobody actually knew about like if Kinnikuman was a real champion, because apparently in this chapter he decided that none of his matches should be seen by anyone ever again. So he destroyed all existing footage of every single match that he was ever a part of, which is the stupidest fucking thing you could ever imagine. So the whole plot is that after 28 years of peace, the bad guys have come back, but the good guys stopped practicing and training because it was peaceful, and now they all get their asses kicked by the bad guys, and they have to train up a new generation. And you're telling me the greatest Chojin to ever do it burned and destroyed every single record of all of his matches? What the fuck is that? What kind of plot point is that? Why would he do that? That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever... Like, that's training data. This is the guy who beat every single bad guy. Alright? And he's just like, nobody should see these because I don't wrestle for this reason. Motherfucker! The whole plot of this is that nobody is ready to fight the bad guys anymore. So that's the kind of shit that bothers me because it's really stupid. But again, this is expected. Ultimate Muscle came out shortly after the end of Scramble of the Throne. But yeah, it is what it is. Alright, chat. We're back. So here we are. So if you're here and you're still here, we have finished all the main characters. Now we're going to be looking at the glossary and finishing the Chronicle. All that's left of the Chronicle is the characters that were made for this game as like general enemies, and the glossary is terminology. So we'll be going through as much as that as I really can while doing the same thing we were doing with the music. So let's get back to it. Prism Parachuter. The theme of Kogasi Hatara. The final stages of a game tend to get serious themes, so a pop song like this is a well-needed breath of fresh air. I tried sprinkling in the sounds of rain and sparkles to create the image of a rainbow after a light shower. I enjoyed seeing all the different forms of rain in the real world too. Regarding the song's title, apparently para means something like to prevent or to protect against in Latin. So like parasol, sun equals parasol, sun prevention. Parachute equals fall. Para plus shoot, fall equals parachute, fall prevention. Ergo, parachuter, danmaku prevention. Add a rainbow prism to that and you get Prism Parachuter. It's perfect. I didn't know that about the para. That actually makes a lot of sense, huh? Parasol, sun prevention. Parachute, fall prevention. Isn't that fascinating? Alright. Evil Eye Z. Cannon fodder character appearing in games for Mystic Square. They weren't even specially called Evil Eye. Fantasy Maiden Wars Evil Eye Z is a variation of Evil Eye's endemic to Makai. They're not particularly noteworthy, but their bodies do seem to have blackened from Makai's miasma. Alright. The Cloud's Fist. Ichiden and Unzan's theme song. As befits a heavyweight brawler like Ichiden, I tried to make it slow and powerful. Might seem a bit simple or subdued, but well, that's just how Unzan is. They join fairly late in the game, but please enjoy pummeling your enemies to your heart's content. Ichiden and Unzan both have valor, so it's fun to see them get all fired up. I think Ichiden is a pretty unique character with the fact that she has Unzan, but she appears late in the game, and her general popularity versus some of the other characters that you get kind of makes her a hard character to throw on the team, in my opinion. Obviously, there's people that do like Ichiden, and there's also people that will use characters solely based on how good they are in like a meta perspective. But there are definitely some characters you get in Part 4 of this game that are underwhelming comparatively in terms of their general popularity or their general strength. And I think it's a shame, because Akyuu suffers for this greatly, because you get Akyuu really early, but Akyuu is hard to kind of keep on the team. Unless you really like Akyuu, or you recognize her abilities and you utilize her abilities, but otherwise, she kind of gets the short end of the stick. Fairy Red, background character fairy number 2. Its design is based on the cannon fodder fairies appearing in embodiment of Scarlet Devil. While they generally appear as enemy small fry, they show up in the story of the Scarlet arc, getting together and playing with each other. They attack from a distance using their scatter bullets, which are relatively large attack range. As start of development, they were considered elite fairies, but their stats aren't very elite, so we settled on a less confusing name. Green! She's green! Alright. Cross Anchor Murasa. The theme of Murasa, out and about, the main synth is that it was supposed to sound different. But to tell you the truth, I wound up using the prototype version in-game. After listening to it over and over, I felt more comfortable with the first pass, so I readjusted the whole thing and fixed it up like that. How's the Captain CQC prowess for you? Murasa's a great unit. Fairy Blue. Background character fairy number 1. Its design is based on the cannon fodder fairies appearing in embodiment of Scarlet Devil. While they generally show up just to be cannon fodder, there are several places in the story that many fairies get together to play. Unit-wise, their standard enemy small fry specializing in their post-movement aim bullet attacks. Make sure to take them down to raise your own power level. That's fucked up to say. Remember to kill them. Hungry Tiger in the Scorching Heat. Fighting alongside Nazar in the theme of show. This was arranged with the image of a lone tiger traversing the howling sands. Much like Rumia, for some reason, I used both sitars, flutes, and guitars while mixing in percussion for that Asian flavor, and the result was this powerful sounding song. Even without a pagoda to her name, a wild tiger is still dangerous. Much like Rumia for some reason. It's a good line. Fairy Maid. The maids living at the Scarlet Devil Mansion. Technically maids, but they're just fairies, meaning they don't help a whole lot. Their settings in Fantasy Maiden Wars are basically what's described above, but their original designs really made them look like they were just responsible for making meals, so we went with the current design instead. Maybe the way they protect themselves with pots when defending is a holdover from the old design. Their main weapons, blue bullets, is based on Danmaku they used in Stage 5 and embodiment of the Scarlet Devil. That actually brings up a good point here. I don't think I've ever seen a defend animation from an enemy unit. But I guess they do defend on higher difficulties when you just attack them, instead of just taking the brunt of it. Some units have defend coding, but yeah, I never really thought of that regular units could defend. I guess they have a special animation for that, even though you wouldn't see it on lower difficulties. Revival of the Golden Brave. Show's theme song after attaining the Jeweled Pagoda. Starting from Hungry Tiger in the Scorchung Heat as a base. I kept it delicate while adding a sense of power. The original song as well and truly bid us farewell though. Seeing as she's a key figure to the Makai arc, she's of course gains a power up when this plays. Casting Courage and then blasting away with Radiant Treasure Gun feels awesome. Alright. Grimoire. Small fry characters known for their appearance in Stage 4 of embodiment of Scarlet Devil. They actually have a picture. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, they're being controlled by having low-ranking spirits and have normal grimoires. Patchouli is the one who uses them, but you don't even have to be a mage to control them, you just need to know how. In the game, Quackama knows how to use them too. Their main weapon is the large caliber Mega Laser Cannon. It's based on the Danmaku in Stage 4 of embodiment of Scarlet Devil. We hope the vertically stretching lasers bring back good memories. Chat. Did the books fire lasers? Did the books fire lasers in Stage 4? What books fire lasers? What books fire lasers? It's not the green ones for Quackama, obviously. It's like the last set of books. Do they fire lasers? I don't remember what they do because usually you just shoot the fairies and it despawns everything. There's a part in the stage where you get hit by lasers, but those are caused by fairies, not books. You think they read the books. Holy Resistance. Namu-san, the theme of Byakuya Hijiri, a sealed great magician, and sometimes known as the monkey of the offense. But man, talk about a long time coming. She had to live with that under her mugshot for so long. But by itself, the song isn't all that exciting, but when paired up with that introduction and all the in-game dialogue, it rises to top class. Grateful to Samban and Gahaku for preparing such a wonderful stage for me. Both the unit and her animations are top-notch, as expected for the late-game recruit. In Hijiri's name, these evildoers shall be vanquished. Hell Crow. Crows inhabiting Hell. Symposium of Post-Mysticism explains that they're the denizens of what the original Hell was still around before moving. An endemic species born in Hell's darkness, they have no particular yokai traits. Fantasy Maiden warriors that begin appearing in the Mystic Arc having no particular traits and acting essentially as an upgrade to the yokai crows in terms of ability. The way they turned out in the game unintentionally abided by the above description. They're bigger than normal crows and have more attack power, possibly due to maturing in the underworld's environment. They didn't grow into cute human forms like Akyuu though. Maybe endemic species have their own things going on. If anyone knows the answer, please tell us. Its main attack is Charge. They attack the same way as normal crows, but they also have Prevail, so be careful. In the final arc, they made a one-time appearance at the Palace of Earth Spirits to make snide remarks about Satori and Koishi's Danmaku battle. Did they? I don't remember them doing that at all, do you? Heian Chimera Syndrome, the theme of Nuhuju, the unidentified assailant. The overall tone is frightening and eerie. It includes the screams and cries of various creatures. The pre-chorus includes Koto, and if you listen carefully, you'll hear some passages that remind you of New Year's. My inspiration for the song came to me around New Year's Eve, so it got a bit of a seasonal feel to it. It was well received by the other members, and I'm quite fond of it myself. Alright. Human A! A character original to Fantasy Maiden Wars, the first of the three background humans. Of the three, this one is the most sensible, mainly providing topics of conversation. Human B! The second of the background humans. Of the three, this one makes the most candid remarks, helping to flesh out conversations. He's from a family that runs a tofu shop that serves both humans and yokai. There is no difference. There are no difference. Human C! The third of the background humans. Of the three, this one is the dullest, and he likes potatoes a lot. It goes without saying which character lives in him as the idol of his heart. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for that information. Trying to be myself once more. The theme of Nuhuju as an allied unit, or the theme of Nue trying to rekindle the flame, according to Sanban. The Heian alien arrangement, I kept Nue's background strongly in mind, but for this one I made it all shiny, spacey, and cute. Fantasy Maiden Wars Nue is kind of a tsunduru, so naturally the parts where they reconcile really brings out the dere. To be honest, the latter half of the song is basically just Murasa's theme. Wow. Insect. An insect belonging to the Corydalidae family of the Megaloptera order. Yep, okay. What the fuck? Oh, jeez. Appearing under Wriggle's control, they have size SS, which is rare in this game. Early in development, our plans didn't really include having Moog appear as enemy units, but after a certain bug-loving staff member Impassioned Plea, they made their debut. They only appear as enemy units in one stage. Afterwards, they relegated the combat animation Nightstorm. I'm surprised. Wait, it's called a Dobson Fly? Why is it called Insect here when it says Dobson Fly up there? This is an insect. Why is this even here? This only appears in Wriggle stage. I didn't do Wriggle stage. Is this not the exact same dialogue for the bee enemy? It is. This is the same dialogue as the other enemy. Oh, fuck off. Whatever. Whatever. Our Hiso Tensoku Fantasy Maiden Wars version. Hiso Tensoku's theme song. Look at the game we're making. You kidding me? No way we can pass them up. Everyone on staff got all worked up and stuffed on all sorts of personal touches. Weirdly stiff battle animations, the grabble voice effects, etc, etc. By the way, the voice is a composite of all of our voices. I asked everyone on staff to let me record them during a team meeting. Kappa! A background kappa. For more on the kappa in general, see their entry. A small fry unit that is somewhat strong, but the same level as the Crow Tengu and White Wolf Tengu. They have a high terrain rank underwater, which makes sense for Kappa. They're friendly to humans and other yokai in the mountain, but they still end up in Danmaku battles. They bring their own inventions to battle, and their strongest attack in particular, yeah, okay, is Underwater Torpedo, which they pull out of their skirts. Weapons coming out of skirts always has a sort of manga-esque excitement. They only appear in the Marissa route of the Eternity arc. No. No? They did what? They also temporarily appear in Satori's recollection. What the fuck are you talking about? These enemies do not only appear in the Marissa route of the Eternity arc. I've fought many of these assholes. Many of them. A girl on the tailwind of a story. Straight out of double spoiler, it's Hatate's theme. I tried to blend nostalgic and cheerful vibes into this pleasant piano rock arrange. I don't quite have the real-time playing skills that Kobu has, so I put all the notes individually by mouse, but I think that sort of mechanical stiffness suits a novice like Hatate. As a side note, when I first showed this arrangement off to Sanban, he quipped, "I can really tell how well you understand a girl's feelings." What did he mean by this? Kappa C. A background Kappa. Calling her a color variation on another background Kappa, well, it's not the best treatment, but that's basically what she is. She's the only red one among the green, so she looks like a commander unit. Who's Kappa R? Kappa Custom. The Kappa who appeared as somewhat strong small fry to fight alongside Crow Tengu and White Wolf Tengu had a model change, becoming more heavy duty. Their long-range monster cucumber weapon, which does in fact have a long range, is a result of many upgrades and refinements. Their development process, in other words. They also still have Torpedo, the strongest weapon of the older Kappa form. The way their weapons come out of their skirts is a very manga-esque romance to it. That's so weird, bro. That's so weird. Unrefracting Curiosity. The theme of Sunny, the leader of the Three Fairies of Light. I knew I'd be working on the theme for all three, so I made sure to accentuate each one's unique personality. The side effect was the song being perhaps a bit too hot-blooded for a fairy, but I figured it was fine for Sunny's theme to be jam-packed with vigor. Thinking back, it was awfully bold of me declaring, "I'll handle all three fairies." I suppose that sealed my fate, but I have no regrets. If it makes the game more interesting, it's all for the best. Kadama. A grunt enemy that appears in A Perishable Night, among other games. As in many other derivative games, they serve as a representative grunt enemy in Fantasy Maiden Wars. They're described as fairies, but for no particular reason. They're also unnecessarily popular among the staff to the point where they even had a half-made theme song called Ore no Kokoro wa Love Hato. We love this guy. Rock. For details about Keystone and Toll projects, see the term entry. That is a shitty picture. That is a shitty picture. As an enemy, they only appear during Tenshi's spell card. They have no noteworthy abilities, but they have high armor and special skill support defense, so be cautious. Anyone who gets excited at the word funnel is our sworn friends and ally. Careless even in springtime. The theme of Luna Child, the klutz of the Three Fairies of Light. I was feeling some silent pressure coming my way from Sanban, so I tried to make it sound a bit playful. Regardless, I don't get many chances to make songs this cute, which is pretty refreshing. This arrangement had a pretty different vibe from the original, but if you listen carefully, you'll hear similar enough melody. Can't sleep because it's nighttime. I don't remember that song, actually. There's a lot of the songs from the Three Fairies CDs I really don't know very well. You should listen to them next to each other if you get the chance. I know Sunny Milk's Scarlet Mist incident. King Evil Eye. A cannon fodder, huh? Character appearing in games for Mystic Square. They weren't always... Oh, nice fucking recycled text. This doesn't apply. Look at the size of this guy. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, King Evil Eye is a giant evil eye that was sealed away in Hokai. Aside from the absence of the letter Sigma on it, it resembles the Evil Eye Sigma mentioned above. Shinki arranged for it to live in a special environment like Hokai so that its vast strength wasn't too much to manage. It's so absurdly gigantic that its size is LL, and he uses Evil Sanction on any opponent it sees. An even bigger type appeared during an event. This one was Evil Eye Sigma. While the details aren't certain, it was clear it acquired a degree of rationality after calming down thanks to Shinki's attitude and Byakuren's persuasion. One might doubt Shinki's intentions behind creating a monster with such an appearance, but in Fantasy Maiden Wars, it was born because it was supposed to be. It seems Shinki wasn't necessarily manipulating its appearance, abilities, or personality. As a postscript, most of the explanation above involves settings unique to Fantasy Maiden Wars. Trickster Girl. The theme of Star Sapphire, the quick-witted and stylish Radar, the three fairies of light. I went for a bit of a shuffle beat to portray her cunning side. That saxophone part really carries the tempo through on a freewheeling arrangement. The Japanese name for the original song is Yosei Sansen Toshite, and at first I had a little trouble figuring out what that Sansen part meant. I got curious, so I looked it up in the dictionary and found Sansan is the brightness and radiance of the sun. All the colors shining, vivid and beautiful. I see. Thinking about it now, I wonder if I should have made the song more sparkly. Toho sure is teaching me a lot. El Fairy. Background character fairy number 4. Just like the original Toho Project games, it's a color variation of other fairies. These are the first fairies to come equipped with barriers. For reasons God only knows, they're extremely cautious around laser-based attacks. The whims of the development staff to give them an interesting barrier effect certainly did not play into this at all. Lady A. A character, oh my god, the text. A character original to Fantasy Maiden Wars. An elderly woman who runs a grocery in the human village. She has no relatives and lives alone. Because of that, she was entrusted with the part of the catering rotation for get-togethers. It's very hard for her that she had to buy a large quantity of food by herself. Of course, Mei Ling happened to be passing by and helped her out. That's how the two of them know each other. Ever since then, the woman has chats with Mei Ling, but she hasn't heard anything regarding Mei Ling's identity other than village rumors. Thus, she doesn't know where Mei Ling stands watch, or who she stands watch for, but she seems to have caught on right away to the fact that she's a yokai. Why do elderly women seem to have that kind of intuition? And why is this woman all alone and running a grocery at her age? You'll need to continue the story a little to get closer to the truth. Yes, for it all began decades ago. They're not gonna tell me. They're not gonna tell me! Our tiny future shines brightly. Going by appearances, this is the theme for the L formation attack. Try to arrange it to have the kind of frantic tempo that'll knock your block off. The song's overall mood is like a jumbled mix of each of the three fairies of light. As a lover of the three fairies myself, I can't help but appreciate how much variety there is across their joint battle lines. Like how there's a little variation based on who initiates the attack, stuff like that. I agree, I like that a lot. Makai Fairy. A type of fairy appearing in Makai. Its design is based on the cannon fodder fairies appearing in Undefined Fantastic Object and Great Fairy Wars. Their basic appearance resembles sunflower fairies, but because of Makai's natural environment, they turn red and black, an evil coloration indeed. Their properties differ from those against Sokyo's fairies. Their wings have a clearly different shape than those of sunflower fairies. Their durability isn't anything to write home about, but they can use their innate magical power to attack from range with magic bullets. Also, being inside their Danmaku decreases your MP, so take caution. Definitely not a type of harmful insect classified as any of the subfamily Cordellenia, or commonly called Dobson flies. It's actually monsters in insect form inhabiting Makai. They possess powerful exoskeletons called Magic Carapace, which nullifies any damage below a certain amount. With how tough they look and their visual impact, we expect many players will have been at a loss for words for whatever reason. Use the keystone item, the Fury Spirit, or weapons with barrier piercing to attack them. Just because medicine's weapons are effective doesn't mean you can use it like a pesticide spray. Not only will the Makai insects fight back, certain insect lovers will get their revenge as well. They use their jaws, which Yamame calls powerful, to catch and devour prey. During the story, Wriggle and Yamame got really excited over them, but Alice seemed to have a little reaction for some reason. Their design and graphics are thanks to a certain insect-loving staff member. They make a temporary appearance as an ally in the Scarlet Arc when Kozuzu reads a Yoma book. What? A temporary ally? No? No, they're the exact opposite of an ally. They're the only fucking enemy on the map. Our hearts are still shining brightly. A single arrow is easily broken, but how about 3? The theme for the 3 fairies who have achieved the power to Gataida. You can use all their spirits together too. The song was arranged to be equal parts dorky and cool. The pre-chorus is my favorite part, by the way. Many. Moon Rabbit. Rabbits who live on the moon. For more details on the Matoro project, see their entry. Having received training from Yorihime that carry gear specialized for assaults, Their general design and their bayonets are based on Silent Center and Blue, but their other gear is part of Sanbando's original setting. They may not look steady at first, but in the original manga they were trained soldiers, so they have skills like blocking and support attack. They're stronger than you might expect. Compared to the Moon Rabbit Sniper, this variety has a calmer expression. Do they? Do they? They're probably the sort who likes chatting when Yorihime isn't around. They appear temporarily in the final arc of the Dreamscape, but also in the special arc, and you're not the only one to see many a barrier penetrated by their 100mm napalm shot. You know what happened to their 100mm napalm shot? It got parried. That shouldn't even be possible. 3 hearts blazing like a morning star. The theme of Fairy Overdrive, the final special move of the 3 Fairies of Light. Man, the word overdrive gets me so excited. The arrangement is fairly close to the originals, but I tried to turn the melody itself into a round. That said, the song title is pretty ostentatious for a bunch of fairies. The Morning Star is written like whatever that says, which can be broken down into sun, moon, and star. Okay. Moon Rabbit Sniper. Rabbits who live on the moon. For more details on the Matoa project, see their entry. Having received training for Yorihime, they carry gear specialized for long-range sniping. The design of the bayonets is based on Silent with the gear Sambon originally may not look. They're stronger than you might expect. This variety has more boyish features than the Moon Rabbit Assault, with hair on the short side to boot. They appear temporarily in the final arc of the Dreamscape, but also the special arc Dream Again. There they come standard with the Ignore Distance skill. An Operator. So these are the ones on the cannons. While they're called something different, they're basically the same unit as Moon Rabbit Sniper. However, since they can use the anti-ship neutron launcher, they can't use any method of attack. Other method of attack. It goes without saying that set gear is Sanban original. We figured that if they had lunar technology anyway, they could probably manufacture weapons like this. The final arc, they appeared during the special arc. In the final arc, they appeared during the special arc. In it, a folding fan appears, the moon's newest weapon, so the anti-ship neutron launcher isn't as impactful, but its power is still there. They also happen to have the additional ability Special Resistance. That's okay. Not sure why, but whatever. Atop the Mobius strip, Mima's debut event theme. This orchestral-styled song seemed a little too grandiose, so we had different song produced for her battle theme. This one got used as an event theme. According to the Big Cheese himself, he tried not to make it too badass. But don't you think the melody and chorus are just too damn cool regardless? It is very good, but I like her other theme a lot. Night Kadama. The Night's power transformed this Kadama's body. Or maybe not. But anyway, it seems somehow different. Like the black Kadamas that appear in the Scarlet arc, there's no particular significance to their existence. If anything, they just have a different stat spread than other Kadamas. Phantom L. The true identity of the essence of animals and plants. They possess the trait of a sensitivity converter, which can transform things they see and hear. Their forms are variable. They appear everywhere in Gensokyo and possess a variety of personalities depending on the mood of the place they're in. Larger than the Phantom S, they also have high attack power and stats. In addition to their long-range laser, they can also shoot smaller phantoms as a more unique means of attack. Phantom S. The true identity of the essence of animal and plants, possess traits, blah blah blah. They appear everywhere in Gensokyo and possess a variety of personalities depending on the mood of the place they're in. The phantoms that appear in Fantasy Maiden Wars are the stereotypical image a person might have of phantoms living in the netherworld. Their stats are pretty low, but they're mainly used as a way to raise your power. And now my favorite. Enter the Alluren. After her cameo in the Mystic chapter, Lady Mima is finally fighting alongside her pupil, and thus this new track. Kobu started this chain with the prior event theme, and I picked it up from there. Tried to give it a mature, hard rock sort of vibe, but the atmosphere gets pretty relaxed near the end, like, yep, that's Marissa's master for you, you know? By the way, the track's name means something like plunging into paradise, but Alluren can also be interpreted as a devil's enticement. Mima as heck. This is one of my favorite themes in the game. To me, it really sounds like the kind of theme you'd give a character that is a long overdue reappearance kind of deal. I don't know how to explain it, but I just think the flow and general BPM of the guitar that you hear is very, very fitting for her type of character, and also the circumstances surrounding her appearances. But again, I don't really know how to explain that at all. In short, it's good. Red Sheep. Familiars employed by Miko. Compared to the other sheep, they're larger, have more attack power, and are more durable. Their weapons have been improved as well. They use Mega Hypnosis Beam and Mega Thunder Ramp. Use your combined forces to wipe them all out at once. Strong Kadama. The Kadama that turn red due to strange space radiation, probably. In addition to having higher stats, it can shoot lasers from its eyes due to changes in its internal organs, probably. No comment on the tackle move? Creeping Dreams. The theme of Ellie, Mugenkan's gatekeeper. To match her new equipment, I arranged a different version of her theme with a more serious and boss-like atmosphere. Seems like that early event with her floor tiles really messed up some players well and good. By the way, when I play Fantasy Maiden Wars, I always ace Ellie. Never mind how weak she looks, she's a marauding captain you can count on. Well, whether she actually reaches that level or not depends on you, but Ellie's a cutie pie, so she usually makes the cut for me. I'm a fan of how she can always liven up the story. She's one of Toho's old characters, though, so she's bordering on OC territory. That's fucked up. How could you say that about her? Sunflower Fairy. Background character fairy number 3. Its design is based on the cannon fodder fairies appearing in Mountain of Faith. Their Sunflower Fairy name comes from their characteristics and charming sunflowers. You can use Danmaku against them or fawn over them, it's your choice. Every household needs one. Compared to other fairies, they have relatively high stats and attack power. Their Danmaku in Stage 5 of Mountain of Faith was notable, but beware of direct hits from their close-range Danmaku as well. Background character fairy number 3, but in a different color. Its design is based on the cannon fodder fairies appearing in games including Mountain of Faith. This one, however, is the blue-haired type that appeared in Phantasmagoria Flower View. Unlike its abilities inside game, they're more durable than normal sunflower fairies and have higher attack power. Perhaps they're affected by the incidents. They don't have any particular special powers, so use powerful attacks to defeat them. The Girl Who Guards the Door to Dreams. Straight out of Lotus Land story, it's Ellie's theme. She's a pretty emotional character, so I decided to emphasize her more disappointing aspects from the first go. Ellie's from ye olden days of Toho, but even though she's practically a Sanbando original character, she seems to fit into the world really easily. She helps set the mood, you could say. It seems it's been a while since her last bout, but just how good is she? So this is the theme that plays when she's a boss in like chapter 4. So it's a lot less pronounced than the other one, but this one's quite good. Barely hear it though. Tengu! Background Tengu. For more about Tengu, see their entry. There are an unspecified number of Crow Tengu, and they first appeared in dialogue segments in the Scarlet arc. Only Tengu C has the face. With their hidden cuteness, they're one of the most popular types of mob characters among the staff. They appeared as units in the Mystic arc with their power grunt status, showing how cutthroat the competition on Yokai Mountain is. Their melee attacks use their natural speed. They also use wind to make Tengu-like attacks. Their general design is based on one of the curiosity of Lotus Asia's frontispieces. They made a brief appearance later in the Eternity arc through Satori's Recollection and the final arc of the Dreamscape. There are unspecified number of White Wolf Tengu. Aside from Momiji, they form a pair at the background Crow Tengu. Even more rigid than Momiji, who is already a serious character, they show what the society is like on Yokai Mountain. Ability-wise, they mainly use close combat and melee attacks, shooting Danmaku and lasers from their shields. Yokai Mountain's technological power is very threatening. Their design is based on one of the curiosity of Lotus Asia's frontispieces, and made brief appearances later in the Eternity arc through Story's Recollection, the final arc, Nightmares of the Dreamscape. They acquired a new skill and an upgrade in durability along with it. The pair accompanying the flower. The theme for Ellie and Kurami's combo attack. Our original plans didn't call for such a song, so I made this track on short notice. But this pair's been working so hard since the Scarlet chapter that we just had to repay them somehow. I got Sanban's permission to arrange this however I wanted, so I ditched the usual rhythm and turned it into a shuffle beat. As a result, this arrangement's got a pretty tricksy feel, and I think it feels suitably speedy. I'm sure most of you already know this, but Bad Apple is the name of Ellie's stage theme. Its name itself is undeniably famous, but surprisingly few people are familiar with the original's melody. Well, of course. Doom, doom, doom. Tengu A. There it is. A background Tengu. This Tengu has somewhat higher stats than normal background Tengu. Perhaps she's using the upgrade to help gather up gossip for articles. Her motto is that being photogenic is secondary, and she focuses more on how aspects such as how amusing something looks rather than the accuracy of her articles. She has a lot of dialogue compared to other background characters. She frequently works beside her Crow Tengu partner, fed up with her though she may be. At first, she has a bunch of somewhat weird character traits, but she really wanted to get married and have her own house, but we ditched all that. Ooh, an angry expression, I'll take that too. Tengu B. Oh, she can be happy. A patrol Tengu of Yokai Mountain and a mid-boss among the other background characters. A character who embodies the attitude of patrol Tengu in the story in ways like how she refers to her colleague Momiji as Inubashiri. Her personality clashes with Crow Tengu A's, and she gripes every time she runs into her. For crying out loud, this is the problem with Crow Tengu. All they care about is sating their own curiosity. I like that Tengu A and Tengu B are just like stand-ins. They're basically just stand-ins for Aya Momiji. Tile. The tile from the bottom of a building, rather Danmaku, that Ellie uses in Lotus Land story. They look like they're part of the floor in the background. But then they float up and fly at the player the way the floor suddenly hurled at them. Pretty notable. I guess they don't appear in battle, per se. They appear again in Fantasy Manowar as part of Ellie's Danmaku. Originally, they weren't going to be distinct units, but they take on a mind of their own in one chapter. The story behind them is that while Ellie normally makes her own floor tiles, she didn't have time. So Padgely made some for her, but she got something strange mixed up with them, and they gained the ability to talk. Scarlet Phenomeny. The theme of Kurumi, who blends in so well you wouldn't even realize she's a PC98 character. Nice try. For some reason, she wound up with a whole lot of crying face mugshots. Well, we worked really hard on them, so we greatly appreciate if you look for them all. As for the song itself, I started with that banger of an intro and built upon it with keeping her energetic and childlike personality in mind. The interplay of flashiness and subtlety during the main melody's sax part is what one might call Gatmo, I feel. The second half is based on her stage theme, but it seems like that song's not terribly popular. If it catches your fancy, go check out Akyuu's Untouched Score Volume 1. Well, of course it's not that fucking popular. It's random Stage 2 theme. In the same game where the Stage 3 theme is the most iconic Toho song ever created. One of Nue's familiars, an undefined plastic object, a piece of flying granary to attach her identity seeds to look like this, but they aren't those pieces, rather the UFOs she used in the extra stage. Of the three colors of UFO, the blue one has the best mobility. Its main method of attack is via the inertia-free hovering, which puts that mobility to use and ignores inertia. In the final arc, apart from appearing as enemy units, they also appear in Nue's attacks. If you suddenly find yourself pining for them, use her blue UFO Invasion of Grief weapon. No. Let's bloom a flower of despair. The theme of Yuka, with the terror cranked to 11. I recall having a lot of fun working on this, as it's not the type of song I'd usually make. I hope her overwhelming power and pressure come across. Yes, this theme is very, very good at illustrating why you should not be attacking Yuka Kazumi. Of the three colors of UFO, the green ones have the longest attack range. Its main attack takes its target away with the anti-gravity torpedo. In the final arc, it'll appear into it. Suddenly find itself use greedy UFO Invasion of Justice weapon. Three colors of UFO, the red one has the most balanced abilities. There's two weapons, laser gun and close quarters laser. They're basically straight out of a sci-fi novel. They seem to ignore the laws of inertia while flying. Their laser attacks aren't yokai-like in the least. Among other things, when you watch the Pelican ship fight, you might start to forget exactly what game you're playing. In the final, you suddenly find yourself pining for them. Use Red UFO Invasion of Reiji as a weapon. She's naturally in red form. The beauty of nature. Yuka's special Master Spark theme. You can hear it during the Scarlet chapter if you're daring enough. I believe the origin of this whole deal was the theory that Marissa's Master Spark is just an imitation of her laser. Basically, Yuka fired off a really huge laser back in Lotus Land story, and it strongly resembles the Master Spark that became synonymous with Marissa herself. The original song Flowerland is Yuka's theme in POFE. Oh, is that what you call it? I mean, I guess, yeah. I've always called it Gensokyo past and present. I guess that I'm using the first half of it. To be honest, I never even really remembered what the fuck the words that came after the word present was. I've always called this theme Gensokyo past and present. never called it Flowerland. So honestly makes it a little weird that it's her Master Spark theme. She doesn't have a laser attack in POFV, you see. She doesn't have anything in POFV. Vengeful Spirit. Feelings of resentment and grudges with minds of their own. For more specific details, visit the Vengeful Spirits to all projects see their entry. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, they first appear in Takuya's arc, then later in the Mystic arc. They were all over the Eternity arc as the centerpiece of the incidents. In the final arc, they seem to be past their peak, and we only hope they won't be grudges for that. Their durability isn't great, but their main attack, Grudge, can be used after movement, making them worthy of caution. The flower that marks the changing seasons, Eternity version. Back in the Scarlet chapter, Yuka appeared as a bonus boss, and she had a few appearances since then that demonstrated her powerful presence. But at long last, she's finally playable. Her overwhelming firepower and impregnable sturdiness makes her an unparalleled frontline fighter. Actually, I suppose she's more like a super powerful fixed-place turret. Well, either way, she's got the surprisingly uplifting rocker range. To tell the truth, this is a recycle from an old album of mine, Howling Stars. I love how beautiful the melody of Japanese Flower is, and in the process of working on it, I fell in love even harder. Bonus fact, in Dolls in Pseudo Paradise, the song is called Japanese Flower, but in Kyogyoku, it was originally called Flower of Japan. So that's her theme in Seiho 2 then. And it's also mixed in Dolls of Pseudo Paradise, but it got a different name. Interesting. Okay. Vengeful Spirit L. Feelings of resentment and grudges with minds of their own. For more specific details, yeah. The Vengeful Spirits, powered up even further than the red ones, becoming size L. Their grudge diffusion attack fires from their bellies, or what would be their bellies anyway. Grudge Explosion is the first map attack belonging to an unnamed unit. It needs a set amount of power so you can use things like Daunt to stop it. Vengeful Spirit R. Essentially upgraded versions of Vengeful Spirits, they're red, meaning they hold 3 times the normal Grudge. All their stats are increased, and they also have the skill Support Defend. Fury is an effective means of handling them. I'm surprised the Vengeful Spirit wouldn't have Support Attack, but, you know, as a flower. Yuka-chan's theme song. According to staff, Yuka, Yuka-rin, and Yuka-chan are all separate entities, or so I've been constantly reminded of for several years now. Therefore, the song was created with specifically Yuka-chan in mind. If I had to explain it, the general image of Yuka, sadistic One-san, is a step removed from the 4 seasons, i.e. the cycle of death and rebirth. That Yuka is the flower master of, and that Yuka can be summed up by the phrase, Yuka-chan is a flower. Or so I'm told anyway. High-level Yuka fans truly live in a different world. While I might not fully understand it myself, I've incorporated this interpretation into the song. Please enjoy it along with the game. I hate to say it, well, this part of this theme reminds me of Persona. White Sheep. Familiars employed by Miko. The durability lags behind the black sheep, but they have more mobility to make up for it. There's a black sheep, there must be a white one. An established trend from way back with MK2. Depending on your difficulty setting, white sheep may be the first grunt units to have double action. Their attack and defense aren't that high, so use tactics to defeat them. They don't use thunder and ram, perhaps they utilize electricity to move around. Instead they charge at you, an electric attack. Right after appearing, they were analyzed down to the particle level by Toyohime. Analyzed? You mean like a fucking... You mean like evaporated, right? Or eviscerated. And set on a journey across space. Incidentally, some of the sheep seem to have individual names like Cats, Mafi, and Toto. Now that you mention it, those all do sound like names of people journeying into space. Oh, is that right? Yokai Crow. Crow turn to the yokai that live in various places in Yokai Mountain. They show up profusely in Stage 4 Mountain of Faith, cause pain for the player. While they might seem stronger than normal crows since they can shoot Danmaku, they're still just small fry to be used in higher ranking yokai. Maiden and Maiden Wars, they come at you like hyena-like attacks to make good use of their high mobility. A Sword Dance of Love and Pity. Yumeko's theme song. I completed this track while imagining an adult woman who diligently accomplishes her work, no matter how difficult. The chorus wound up strangely dancey, hence this strange song title. Whether versus Alice or Sakuya, she's one of those older characters with a lot of fun fanfic potential. We fully showcased that charm in this game, I think. I dig that attack where she slashes you relentlessly. It's got a really crisp animation. Agreed! Holy fuck, that's one of the coolest animations in the game, where she just has a huge fucking row of swords and she hits you so hard with them, she's just breaking them off of you. That shit is awesome! Yokai Rabbit. Background rabbits. Rabbit turned yokai inhabiting the bamboo forest of the lost. They are Yoju, yokai animals, and subordinate to Tei, leaders of the Earth Rabbits. While they handle various tasks around Aentei, they don't seem to be listening to Raisin's instructions much. In the original games, they appear in Imperishable Night and Phantasmagoria Flowerview. Their position is close to what their Aentei servant impression would imply, but like the Fairy Maid at Scarlet Devil Mansion, they don't seem to do much work. There be many scenes in Aentei depicting them either. Perhaps they live in the forest most of the time, only being called over for tasks such as pounding mochi. In their appearances, they formed an intelligence fairy. The most extreme examples in the manga Inaba of the Moon and Inaba of the Earth are literally just rabbits. They almost seem like pet rabbits rather than yokai rabbits. But they seem to understand what people are saying, so perhaps their apprentice yokai rabbits unable to transform into human. The yokai rabbits appear in human form in Fantasy Maiden Wars. In Japanese, they refer to Tei respectfully as Tei-san, and while on one hand their behavior is simple, they also have a bit of a calculating side to them. In battle animations, they'll act like rabbits, jumping around, pounding mochi, and the like. They hurl exploding mochi at you, too. Perhaps they have a special explosive made by Eden in them. Then again, we already have exploding cucumbers and potatoes, so maybe it's a little late to be asking questions. Their wallop attack seems to be something Tei taught them, which they dubbed Hippity Hoppity Rabbit Meteor. In the animation for Tei's Hair of Inaba, they'll come running at Tei's signal no matter where she is, even if she's inside Eden's barrier or the underworld. Also, the rabbits, as they appear in Inaba the Moon, Inaba the Earth, show up just for a moment in Tei's Great Fortune Crest attack. In the final arc, aside from appearing as enemy units, they have roles to play in the greater story as well, such as keeping watch on the sheep. Boony. Ein Sof Theme of Shinki, creator of Makai, and everybody's mother that created this piece as if she was the final boss. We've got church organs, choir, strings, and other gothic elements like you'd hear while fighting a climactic battle in an RPG. Gosh, PC98 songs have this really straightforward coolness to them. Makes me wonder what Zun was listening to back then. The name of this track is Ein Sof Or. I don't know how to pronounce that properly. Please enjoy it alongside her battle animations, which are undoubtedly some of the longest, highest quality in all of Fantasy Maiden Wars. Yes. Who the fuck is Yokai Rabbit D? Relatively speaking, this rabbit holds something of a leadership position among Tei's subordinates. It might just be a little older or something. Distributes the energizing dongo that Tei gave it. In Cage and Lunatic Runegate, I don't think this fucking enemy actually appears outside of Marissa's route, but I guess these just unlock anyway. Eden mixed in a cheerfulness-inducing drug, so Tei probably got it from her. Keep this on the down low, but early in development, this rabbit had more of a personality and ended all its sentences with the word boing. We started wondering if such a character would honestly be strange, though, and we ended up just making rabbits high on dongo talk like that instead, even though Kappa C is quite a bit stranger. As a result, Rabbit D turned into a regular old petty villain. Please accept it anyway, boing. A fairy dressed up like a zombie. They appear under Orin's control in things like Cursed Sprite Zombie Fairy. From their name, appearance, and behavior, you might think they're actually the zombies of fairies, but the Grandma Marissa says that they're just excited fairies that attack you while pretending to be zombies. And double spoiler, Aya describes them as plain pretend zombies. Since life and death are totally different from fairies than they are for regular creatures, they wouldn't be zombies in the normal sense of the word, at least. That said, zombie fairies can recover at an astounding speed, and they move about much differently than normal fairies. They're really enthusiastic about their zombie acting. That basis is unchanged in Fantasy Maiden Wars, and even when passing by wordlessly in Chapter 53's event, they were being mind-read by Satori. On the other hand, their acting prowess actually seems to give them some of the strength of vengeful spirits. In particular, they burn their own bodies in the zombie flame animation and charge relentlessly in the vengeful spirit march animation. Almost as though they don't feel pain at all. Perhaps Orin is giving them some sort of assistance. They also have HP regen L, so if you want to take them down as soon as possible. I like the idea that it's a zombie fairy? No, it's just a fairy who really likes pretending to be a zombie. The brush-wielding girl weaves history. Japanese saga. The theme of Akyuu Hieda, who's something of a representative of the Printworks characters. On account of her incredible memory, she's like a cross between a personal officer and a mascot. Apparently, Akyuu is a big fan of Yogakudan, their term for FM synth music. So I used the bleep bloopiest sounds I could get my hands on. Her ability is not forget things she's seen once. Might not seem like much, but you never know. She has a brush attack that does 1 billion damage. Anyway, we're done with the Chronicle chat. So now it's time to read some glossary. all creations of the lunar capital. An event held by Akyuu during the frost month, November of the 120th year, covered by both the Gensokyo Chronicle and Boom Boom Maru. Its extensive newspaper coverage helped raise awareness of Akyuu throughout Gensokyo. According to Akyuu, the event was a display of all sorts of Lunarian goods. The exhibition was divided into 3 sections: academic materials, military supplies, and the classics. Each featured items rarely seen on Earth. Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red describes it as a lively event featuring Raisin's Moon Rabbit Mochi Pounding Show and other shows invented on the spot. Despite the venue being so difficult to get to, it was apparently a massive hit with humans and yokai alike. Even its coverage was favorable, with Aya, rare to give it her praise, call it a smash hit. Regardless of how fantastical Gensokyo might be, seeing genuine items from the moon would be a rare treat. Perfumento in Strict Sense notes that due to the exhibit's success, its owner intends to make it an annual event. However, there's no indication of it becoming a regular occurrence. That said, in the Inaba manga, Kaguya spotted in an old newspaper about their first event, inspiring her to put on a second. While its exact contents are unknown, it was apparently a delightful event with a week-long after-party, serving as that manga's final chapter. The event is also held in Fantasy Maiden Wars. Its contents are roughly the same as the original, with an extra pair of hands on the Mochi Pounding Show, courtesy of Raisin II. By the way, Kaguya's Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red article mentions it displaying the flag humanity allegedly planted on the moon, and so the flag got included in one of the Fantasy Maiden Wars maps. A cute little addition by the map designers. So that was the flag that was put on the rocket that got launched into to the capital, that had dialogue if you walked on it. Lunatic Guardian, Yorihime's theme song. As part of putting Yorihime into this game, we really couldn't avoid that image of her being the strongest enemy, so I had to give her an air of nobility and strength. The original song is a short FM track, so I took the opportunity to build it out how I wanted. As for the song title, Lunatic Guardian, of course refers to her status as the moon's protector, but lunatic has a special meaning in Toho as the strongest, in terms of difficulty. But on the flip side, she bears subtle feelings towards the Surface and Aiden's group, making her a compelling antagonist. Looking at it objectively, this game's alterations to Silent Thunder and Blue's plot are pretty interesting. Also, if you face a base power Yorihime, you can beat her even with an unupgraded squad, on normal at least. As for powered up Yorihime or higher difficulties though, well, you'll have to see for yourself. No thanks. I've seen enough. And then there were none. The final line, and later the title, of a mystery novel by Agatha Christie. A brilliant masterpiece in the history of mysteries and one of Christie's most famous works. The story revolves around 10 characters trapped on an island and being killed off one by one, in a manner resembling the nursery rhyme featured in the narrative. We won't go into all the details here, but needless to say, it still holds up as an all-time classic. I've actually read this book, chat. It's good. As Toho goes, the story serves as inspiration for the battle against Flandre in EOSD. In particular, the spout card, and then there will be none, is a variation on the novel's title. Amusingly, the pattern involves Flandre disappearing, so if the player gets hit, there really will be none. In Marissa's version of the extra stage, she demonstrates familiarity with Christie's novel and the nursery rhyme to the point she can quote it. The way it handles that material is just one of those things that makes Toho so unique. Fantasy Maiden Wars follows the same conventions, though rather more directly. The Scarlet Arc hints at the dialogue from EOSD's extra stage, but it's not until the Eternal Arc that Flandre finally leaves the basement. And then there were none. Lunatic Elegance. Toyohime's theme song. I went for a 3/4 beat to portray her nobility and elegance, while also differentiating the song from Yorihime's. I particularly like how the horns prance about. She might come across as overpowered, but as a late game unit, I think she deserves a little slack. Yeah, alright, whatever. Aquatic Yokai's Future Bazaar. A bazaar held at the foot of the Yokai Mountain in Toho Hisotensoku. It was being held by the Kappa, displaying their inventions among other rare finds. It seems to have been quite successful, as several characters allude to. Hisotensoku the balloon was made by Suiko to advertise it. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, the bazaar is held by the Kappa at the start of the Dream Arc. The basic idea remains the same, with the event held by a riverside. However, it's located near to where the explosive finale of the Eternity Arc took place, symbolizing their hope for a better tomorrow. Whoa. The variable yet constant Zero Fighter. The theme of the rabbit who's grown up into a respectable member of the Lunar Defense Force, Rei Sem. She was quite the troublemaker during the Eternal chapter, but she's been taking her training seriously and has become a reliable ally who can live up to the Raisin name. Raisin doesn't have her own canon theme song, so I chose The Wheelchair's Future in Space from Magical Astronomy. It's my favorite song, so I had a lot of fun arranging it. Additionally, thanks to some Fantasy Maiden Wars specific circumstances, the back half of the song includes parts from Lily's theme and even a little bit of The Rabbit Has Landed. Wait, isn't that Seiden's theme? do keep your ears open for them. The name of the song is derived from the Reisen Type 0 fighter plane. Come to think of it, Seirin was the name of a fighter plane too, wasn't it? The wheelchair's future in space is not a theme I remember. Bamboo Thicket of the Lost. A bamboo forest that exists in Gensokyo. From the human village is located opposite of Yokai Mountain. As its name suggests, it's very easy to get lost in the bamboo thicket, but according to Perfect Memento in strict sense, this has nothing to do with magic or anything. It just has no landmarks to speak of. It seems that even fairies have a hard time navigating it. For example, Chino got lost in there and POFB. The 3 fairies also got lost in there and... Sorry. I've never seen Strange and Bright Nature Deity abbreviated before, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Though that case had more to do with Reisen's ability. According to Reisen, this place used to be called Takakusa Commandery. However, the 3 fairies seem unaware of this, and it's not mentioned at all in the Gensokyo Chronicle, so it's probable that this isn't a widely known fact today. For what it's worth, Tei claims to be the oldest resident, even going back to its old name as well as its owner. As an aside, there's a strange rumor about a group of yokai exterminators hiding out around the area. The rumor seems to have sprung up while Ante was in hiding and before Moko started showing up in the village, leading most to assume the bamboo thicket was uninhabited. Perhaps it started when some stray human wandered in and caught sight of Moko and gang. SpongeBob and Friend. The Unknown Objects Earth-Striking Strike. Theme of the giant catfish, an assassin from the Makurata clan. Much like the insects from Makai, dealing with these strange, huge creatures makes you feel like you're playing a different game. But sometimes it just feels nice to encircle a giant monster and beat it up, you know? This arrangement doesn't deviate much from the original, but it's clean and easy to listen to, so I rather like it. And here I was thinking I'd be stuck only working on themes for the heavy hitters. Actually, wait, this is the final boss theme too, isn't it? Honestly, what's this game coming to? On a related note, wahaha! That laugh actually comes from a staff member, plus a lot of post-processing. Sometimes we here at Sambando put our bodies online for the sake of entertainment. I keep going up. Barrier of life and death. The boundary line dividing the worlds of the living and the dead. Regarding its import, Marissa once commented that this barrier is amazing. There's no way a novice like me can solve its mystery. Taken at face value, we can take this as an indication that this is indeed a big deal. That said, it doesn't completely cut off travel to the netherworld, as you can still bypass it by flying or jumping over it. Looking at it that way, you have to wonder how effective a ward it actually was. But by all accounts, it did its job just fine. Maybe ghosts just can't fly that high. The barrier was destroyed by Reimu during the spring snow incident, but for whatever reason Yukari chose not to repair it. Since then, the 2 worlds have been freely accessible. As a result, ghosts have been popping out of the netherworld ever since. By the way, all 3 protagonists of Perfect Cherry Blossom subvert the barrier in different ways. Reimu breaks it, Marissa hops over it, and Sakuya somehow bypasses it. Alright. Sakuya somehow. Bottled sheep fall asleep. The theme of Miko, aka Shiro. We all knew Fantasy Maiden Warriors would have original content in it right from the get-go, so I wasn't unprepared or nervous or anything. But actually working on the song made me realize how much I've been relying on Toho's amazing tracks. As for the song itself, I wanted something folksy and potato-ish. Okay, that's an interesting descriptor. I went for more a European vibe and tried to make it sound like it was carrying a lot of baggage. I'm sure Miko didn't enjoy being stuffed in a jar of Namiko mushrooms. I bet lots of players will have a low opinion of her at first, considering her actions in the prior arc, but well, I hope you'll give her a chance. Fantasy Maiden Warriors is a derivative of the Toho project, but when we polled a group of volunteers, we discovered that Bottled Sheep was actually one of our most popular songs. We were really happy to hear that. I hope some of that residual love will splash onto you, Miko. And personally, I'm really looking forward to any Miko fan art that gets made. I like Miko. Blazing Star. One of Marissa's spell cards first appeared in Imperishable Night as Blazing Star, and then in Immaterial Missing Power as Comet Blazing Star. In Grimoire, Marissa is described as Marissa's firing the Master Spark behind her like a rocket. Due to her admiration for shooting stars, Marissa's spells often include astronomical terms, particularly stars. She also has a whole suite of spells inspired by her signature Master Spark. Blazing Star is one of the few cases of her combining both allusions to stars and riffing on Master Spark, other notable examples being star sign Dragon Meteor. Spells without sign names in front is often strongly represent the characters using them, so we can assume that Blazing Star is one of Marissa's most important creations. Boom Boom Maru newspaper, an independent newspaper published by Aya Shimemaru. It sees releases upwards of 5 times a month plus bonus issues covering all the mysterious goings-on around Gensokyo's favorite girls. All the articles, including the photos, are produced by Akyuu. Thanks to his choice as topic that seems more entertainment than news, being frequently enjoyed in cafes. Known subscribers include Vinosuke and the Scarlet Double Mansion. Vinosuke in particular has actually placed advertisements for his store. Most of the Akyuu-related storylines, all written as Toho Bunkacho in Japanese, involve the newspaper in some way. Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red consists of selections of past articles, while Shoot the Bullet and Double Spoiler depict Akyuu getting her material. By the way, a bunkacho is a small notebook used for taking notes, which, along with her trusty camera, is essential for Akyuu's job. Character setting files, POFE describes it as gossip rag, but Akyuu seems to take interviews pretty seriously. She often refrains from reporting on unverified accounts, striving for strictly factual coverage. For example, while writing an article about Rumiya, she went to an expert, Renosuke, about the effects of living in the dark all day, despite there not being a very flashy subject, and barely related to Rumiya besides. The quality of her writing is, by all accounts, top-notch, with even her rival Hatate saying her articles are total nonsense, but they're strangely appealing. That all said, she seems to have an anything goes as long as it's factual attitude. For example, in Strange and Bright Nature Deity, she tried to incite the three fairies to attack Reimu just so she'd have something to write about. Her tendency to report on self-induced problems is problematic, to say the least. But sometimes her personal biases slip into her articles, like the time she wrote a scathing article about Yukari disciplining Ron, decrying it as animal abuse. Also, she's weirdly protective of birds. As an aside, the reason why Akyuu got involved in the plot of subterranean animism is because she was snooping on the business of the mountain god and the Kappa, and was determined to expose their secrets, despite them technically being her allies. See, I wouldn't have known that, because I don't play that route. Ever. Boom Boom Maru articles always start in the format of 120th season, first of the fourth month, with the term season here referring to the year. Though not explicitly stated, we can deduce that the first there indicates the month publishing cycle rather than the exact date. As a way of proof, the example above is an article, among other things, references the 5th banquet being held at the Hakude Shrine that month, which doesn't line up at all with it being the first day of the 4th month. And at any rate, no article ever includes a number greater than 5, so it really can't have anything to do with the days. Despair Sheep. Driven to the brink and with her time running out, this is the theme of Dream manifesting Miko. Bullying our own original character like this, you might think Sambando's pretty evil, but I tried to get across Miko's painful feelings through this two-step process of making an original song and then arranging it. Lady Makura's dream is my dream! Miko herself might be a short-sighted and a bit overly dependent, but I really do think she's a nice, devoted, good girl. Though, just my opinion, the writers might be feeling differently. Ultimately, Gensokyo has its own way of doing things, and when yokai starts causing trouble, its protectors will put an end to it. At long last, you've reached the final stage. We hope you enjoy the finale. Cabbage! A vegetable widely consumed across Japan. What do you mean? Why is there a combined chapter? Shoot, what the fuck does that even mean? Its relationship with humans date back to ancient times and is said to have been introduced in Japan in the Edo period, 1603 to 1863. Since the story often takes place in the late winter or early spring window, you consider it a seasonal item of sorts. I'm not the one who decided on it, but it seems like someone thought, spring cabbage sounds nice and went with it. As an aside, up until 1945, they used to be called kanran, sweet indigo in Japanese. Sweet indigo, huh? Feel like there's something there, but it's probably just a coincidence. Checkered cookie. A cookie baked by Alice appeared during the ending for Mystic. Alice serves these to the three fairies in the manga Strange and Bright Nature Deity, so it's possible she makes them often for tea. Since they were baked by our resident critting machine, they grant the effects of the Triumph Spirit. Oh, so that's why they do that. We can't say how they're made, but by pairing them with sides like stimulants from Yuka's Garden, or perhaps fish heads from Nitori, well known for boosting productivity, you can really bring out their rich flavor. Cherry tree, a generalized term for the subgenus Cerasus of the genus Prunus subfamily Amygdalidae, with a greater family of roses, a deciduous broad-leaved tree blooming primarily white to pink flowers in spring as one of Japan's most famous flowers. Cherry trees have been deeply entwined with people's lives in Japan since ancient times, serving as both a signpost for the harvest season and as a food source themselves. However, as Japan's own national culture developed, cherry trees became more known for their flowers, and for the Heian period onwards, the word flower could be considered synonymous with cherry blossoms in classical poetry. Since then, cherry blossoms have left their mark on the spiritual lives of Japanese people, influencing all forms of entertainment and art regardless of rank and social class. Even in modern times, cherry blossoms continue to influence people's sense of the seasons. The blooming of cherry blossoms is widely reported on as marking the first sign of spring, and when all the flowers have fallen, that marks the coming of summer. It is believed the tradition of hanami, outdoor flower viewing parties often accompanied by drinking, became popular during the Edo period, 1603 to 1867, and has continued strongly even into the present day. As a complete aside, the phrase "under the cherry trees, corpses are buried" is the opening line of Kaiji Motojiro's work, Under the Cherry Trees. As Toho goes, cherry blossoms remain a symbol of spring in Gensokyo. PCB goes without saying, but even at Great Fairy Wars, as soon as you start seeing cherry blossoms, Lily White's there to greet both spring and you. Hakude Shrine and Hakugokuro, two of the series' most famous locations, are well known for their cherry trees, and often frequented as hanami sites. Words. Dreaming beauty, the beauty of dreaming. Makura-sama netteru. She's sleeping. Makura's theme song. As an original character, I had to envision her image myself, so I settled on a sense of grandeur and beauty along with a contentional vibe. She's the final boss, so the song is as long as you'd expect. Her design process underwent many twists and turns, including younger designs, various hairstyles, and all sorts of palette swaps, but ultimately I think this is just how she was always going to turn out. Oh. Now, this is a great theme. Cleansed crystal mirror, a mirror reflecting the sins of the dead during their lifetime, used by the Yama while passing judgment so the dead can witness and reflect upon their crimes. It works basically the same way in Toho, counted among the Yama's tools. Apparently each Yama has one in a different shape, with keys in the form of a hand mirror. Concert tickets. Tickets to see a live performance by the Prison River Ensemble. They perform on request with tickets provided by the host of the venue. The Prison Rivers have done a variety of performances across all their appearances, including live shows. Most of them seem pretty open attendance affairs, though a few have looked more restrictive. There's no indication of the exact economic arrangements are. Does anyone benefit from them playing? Do they even collect a paycheck? No one can say. That said, considering the ensemble in their name, one has to assume they're professional and well organized in such manners. Appears in Fantasy Maiden Wars as equipment, despite just being tickets and not CDs or anything like that. They seem to raise the wielder's morale. Dream Incident. A Sanbando original instrument created for Fantasy Maiden Wars. It started as just a placeholder term for the writers, but was eventually adopted as an actual term in the story. Gensokyo's human population started having nightmares every night, wreaking havoc on their mental states. As for why Makura was motivated to cause the incident, please refer to her entry. Dreamscape. An alternate world from Toho 4 Lotus Land story. It can be accessed for Gensokyo through a lake past the mountains. The boundary between the two worlds is demarcated by Mugenkan. The original game doesn't describe much about it, so most of its details in Fantasy Maiden Wars are Sanbando original. Earth Spirit Incident. The incident giving rise to Toho 11's subterranean animism. Given this incident has no canonical name, we took the liberty of giving it one. From Gensokyo's perspective, it was an incident where vengeful spirits gushed forth from underground, prompting the protagonist to go investigate. The incident didn't look overly dangerous, leading Reimu and Marissa to just carefully observe, at least at first. The mastermind was Orin, who orchestrated the vengeful spirit geysers in hopes of luring surface dwellers underground to come deal with Utsu. Utsu, having recently gained the power of Yadagarasu, was out of control, and Orin, fearing that Satori would dispose of her if she found out, hoped to deal with her matter in secret. That said, Orin's fears about what Satori would do if she found out were completely unfounded. The story might seem silly at first, but it really delves into the complexities of Orin's misunderstandings, Utsu's megalomania, and Satori's lack of awareness. In the end, the situation was resolved amicably, and forged the way for improved relations between the underworld and the surface. Fantasy Maiden Wars mixes in its own spice by giving Utsu another motive to acquire power, also emphasizing the danger posed by the vengeful spirits. Instead of going the conventional route, the mastermind showing up at the end of the monologue dramatically, the story takes its time exploring the thoughts and feelings of everyone involved. That's one of the benefits of being such a text-heavy game. Awakening Beauty. Makura's Allied theme song. It's gotten a bit speedier, almost as if she'd just woken up. I've trimmed the length of it a few places to slim it down. If she was up for it, I think short hair would suit her. Miko. If you're going outside, Lady Makura, it'd be a waste not to tidy up your hair. Something like that. There's 3 songs missing there, which are probably related to New Game Plus. They're obviously related to New Game Plus, but they're probably related specifically to, you know, Fucker 1 and Fucker 2. Isis. Fantasy Maiden War exclusive plot element, a system devised by Patchley for repelling intruders from the Scarlet Devil Mansion's great library. It deploys Dawnmaker for gems in one of 5 different colors installed throughout the library. ESA stands for Elementally Activated Sokomadeo Intruder System. Basically, it's a magical home defense system activated by shouting, "That's far enough." That's what Sokomadeo means. As the name suggests, it deploys Danmaku using the 5 basic elements. Essentially, it takes advantage of the interaction between each element to propagate magical powers around the system using gems as the vertices, resulting in the automatic release of Danmaku. By positioning these vertices in the optimal locations, they form an impenetrable automatic defense system. So Patchley claims, at least. Originally, the system was intended to create Danmaku as a byproduct of cycling energy around, but part of the system was damaged due to an earlier incident. See the Sakura route for more details. Because of this, Patchley is having Kudobi stand in to assist in the Danmaku deployment. E-assist is pronounced like Aegis. If that sounds familiar, you might think of a certain shield from Greek mythology, but that one's spelled Aegis. To put it simply, we couldn't make Aegis work as an acronym. We thought about something like Absorption, Emission, Gokyo Interaction System, but no matter how we workshopped it, it didn't quite work. Ultimately, we decided to go with the Aegis because it let us fit the Sokomadeo into the name. It just really felt like something Patchley would shout at the protagonist rudely barging into her library, you know? Incidentally, Patchley has never once said Sokomadeo in any official Toho work. Very important to note. Ayante, a Japanese-style mansion located in the bamboo forest of the Lost. It was constructed by Kaguya and added to conceal their whereabouts on Earth. Until the Eternal Night incident was resolved during the course of Ayante's time was frozen by Kaguya's ability, rejecting change and isolating it from Earth's impurities. After everything was said and done, Kaguya broke the spell of eternity, allowing Ayante's time to flow normally. Since the incident's resolution, quite a few people from the human village have gone in search of the pharmacist Eren Yakokoro. As a result, people gradually come to think of Ayante as a clinic and used it as such. Unfortunately, since Ayante is deep in the bamboo forest of the Lost, it's impossible for most people to actually get there. To that end, it seems that Moko has started acting as a guide for lost travelers, as well as aiding in transporting urgent patients. As for whether or not Moko actively agreed to do this, the text offers us no clues. Cool. For the Gensokyo of tomorrow, the typical player phase theme. Passing through the Dendora Field's rhythm and this arrangement steadily marching beat blend perfectly together into the background music, for you moving your allied units around the map. As a big fan of Zun's music collection myself, I was also satisfied. Ghostly Field Club is a real masterpiece, isn't it? The worldview and the overall mysterious atmosphere are really wonderful. Eternal Night Incident. Within Fantasy Maiden Wars, this is a general term for the incident that occurred during Imperishable Night. The expression was introduced in perfect memento and strict sense by Akyuu, noting that the night did not break and dawn did not visit for a while. That's the version of events most against Sokyo is familiar with, and while not strictly inaccurate, the truth is much more complicated. During this time, the residents of Ayante caused an incident by concealing the true moon, and to counteract it, the protagonist stopped the night. In other words, Imperishable Night actually has 2 incidents, one caused by Ayante and the other by the protagonist. The latter caught far more attention, so that time the night kept going is how most people remember it. On the other hand, Ayante hiding the true moon posed little threat to most humans. On the other, full moons are very important to yokai, so it was a rare incident posing an existential threat. In Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red, Aya calls the Eternal Night incident an incident of seldom magnitude, emphasizing its danger and urgency. At the time, Aya was unaware of the true moon being hidden, so it's not clear how dangerous she would have felt the fake moon to be. It's interesting to note, though, that while she wasn't very concerned about the spring snow incident despite the danger it posed to humans, she seemed to get really freaked out by the night lasting a few extra hours. Perhaps this offers some insight into the nature of yokai. In Fantasy Maiden Horse, the first half of Eternity deals with this incident. In this game, the role of Night Stalker falls to Yukari alone, meaning that the characters on Marissa's route aren't involved in it at all, despite her being an IM protagonist herself. That said, they noticed the false moon in the sky, so even if Yukari hadn't done it, someone on her side, probably Alice, would have. Also, since both I and Akyuu tagged along for this game, far more people know about the truth of this incident than in the original games. That extends to the Gensokyo Chronicles and Boom Boom Maru, of course. Fantasy Maiden War's version of those articles are likely different to match. We'll get that one in a second. Green Witch in the Battlefield. A somewhat tense map theme. As strategy games go, I think this captures the vibe of a map theme well, but I regret needing to change the tempo. The original song played at exactly 120 BPM, playing on the idea of Green Witch Meantime. Cute concept, right? I didn't know that. That's kind of cute. Wow. Fairies! the embodiment of nature itself. As a manifestation of nature, they exist whatever nature exists. They appear human-like, but are fundamentally different creatures. They have short lifespans, but will immediately reincarnate into the same form and do not require food or any other sustenance. Each individual fairy differs wildly from the next, but most are mischievous tricksters. Some, like the Scarlet Devil Mansion fairy maids, actually take jobs, though they're not very good at them, while others live completely solitary lives. Some are small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, while others get to be as tall as human children. I want a palm-top fairy. With such diversity, it's tempting to suggest that they're not even the same species, but they all share the same fundamental roots as embodiment of Gensokyo's nature. By the way, given that they don't have familiars per se, they also don't have typical surnames. While English speakers typically write names like Sunny Milk or Lily White separately, in the original Japanese, they're actually notated like a single compound word, i.e. Sunny Milk and Lily White. The homes of fairies blend into nature and cannot typically be found by humans. Marissa visited the three fairies' house once, but that's because they invited her. Fairy domiciles in manga and other media tend to have typical house-like shapes to them, but maybe that's only because of the fairies viewing them and a human wouldn't see it that way. Confusion beneath the moonlight. A high-tempo player phase theme. I arranged it with an image of a lightning assault through a barrage of enemy fire in mind. I really took a hammer to this tune, focusing heavily on the main chorus while adding my own personal touches with the guitars. This resulted in a pretty long track though, so those of you who always watch battle animations probably won't hear the whole thing very often. Caught. Fantasy Maiden Warriors has several special stage themes, which we chose to match the tone, atmosphere, and climactic feel of whatever's been happening in the story. Among them, this song and other songs, which use 4 kanji long names, took a lot of effort to craft up to the Ibiza standard. Fantasy Maiden Squadron. The official name for the team lead for Reimu Marissa, though the term lead is a bit misleading as the team lacks any official hierarchy and none of its members have any real obligations. In fact, considering how many of its members are former enemies turned allies and how long they've been going on for, it's hard to even really treat them as a team. Truthfully, for complicated reasons, the name you pick almost never gets referenced afterwards. It's a bit disappointing, but like, we had to do it, right? Having a special name for your team is just cool. That also doesn't exist in this version. Firefly. Generic name for the family Lampridae of the Orcoloptera, highly popular insects known for their characteristic glowing abdomens. Aquatic fireflies tend to only grow their larvae at freshwater sources, and so the presence of fireflies is seen as an indicator of a rich environment. As an aside, fireflies aren't all that pretty when seen at daytime. When you mention fireflies in Toho, the first person you'd think of would be Wriggle. She herself is a firefly Danmaku. More details on her, please refer to her own entry. In perfect mental strict sense, it's noted that because fireflies are popular with humans, they're rarely exterminated, so it's easy for them to become yokai. Wriggle's dialogue in the game implies that that is no different against Sokyo. Reimu mentions that Gensokyo has been seeing an increase of fireflies lately, implying that they started fading into fantasy from the outside world. She even wonders aloud if everything's alright in the outside world, a rare expression of concern coming from her. Perhaps she simply couldn't imagine a world in which even the ever-plentiful insects have lost their place. I'll go back to that one. Girls surpass the carnage. The theme when our heroes are in a tight spot. Godfather of the song's title was our leader Sanban. While working with the image of a desperate struggle in mind, I tried to infuse the melody in the second half with a touch of hope. The result, I think, is an arrangement with an interesting balance between the first and second halves. The original song was border of dreams and reality, from changeability of strange dream. I particularly recommend paying attention to the way the chorus breaks through the desperation. Flower Incident. A series of incidents depicted in Toho 9, Phantasmagoria Flower View, also known as the Great Barrier Incident of 60 Years. A highly conspicuous incident in which all Gensokyo's flowers bloomed at once, prompting Reimu to investigate without delay. However, unlike most incidents, the flower incident had no mastermind behind it. Even calling it an incident is dubious in that regard. It was caused by a large number of ghosts making their way to Gensokyo, taking refuge in whatever flowers they could find. In other words, a bunch of ghosts showed up all at once and caused all the flowers to bloom. The exact reasons for this are unclear, but according to Akyuu, the number of dead in the outside world sharply increases roughly every 60 years, with the events of POFE lining up with that cycle. To say it differently, something happens in the outside world every 60 years, and that causes a buildup of ghosts, which eventually overflows into Gensokyo. In one of POFE's endings, Yukari explicitly states that this has occurred at least 3 times prior, 60, 120, and 180 years ago. According to all knowledgeable parties, the cycle is basically unavoidable, and is more akin to a natural phenomenon. Additionally, the 60-year cycle is important to Gensokyo as a whole. In Short Story and Seasonal Dream Vision, Yukari explains that this year represents the combination of the sun, spring, and earth. but only happens once every 60 years, and together they represent the rebirth of all living things. And according to Akyuu, nature is reborn once every 60 years. Gensokyo will resurrect this year. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, the Dream Arc is set shortly before the events of POFE normally take place. The scenery that greets our protagonists as they return to Gensokyo after the final battle was based on this incident. The sight of all those flowers and their beauty, their melancholy, and all their dreamlike wonder was the perfect representation of the end of a cycle alongside a new beginning. 60 years of history draws to a close, and a new set of 60 years begins. Fantasy Maidens, move out. The Allied Reinforcements theme. It's a bit embarrassing to put girls in the title like that, but I kept it straightforward. Making songs like this is generally pretty simple. That doesn't say girls. Flying Granary. Sacred tool appearing in a total of 12 undefined fantastic object known as the Flying Silo. It originally belongs to Byakuren's younger brother, the legendary monk Myoden Hijiri, and contains his power. It passed on to Byakuren after his death, but she transformed to a boat. Hold on. It passed on to Byakuren after his death, but she transformed into a boat. You're missing a very important word there, because right now that sentence reads like Byakuren can transform into a boat. Okay. It's a similar one Murasa used to captain. Yep, that's right. Byakuren was the boat the whole time, and now serves as the basis of the Palanquin ship. As mentioned above, the Flying Granary is filled with Myoden's Buddhist power and possesses tremendous spiritual capacity. In UFO's character settings, it's noted that Byakuren trained here, and so its power would be necessary to break her seal. During UFO's story, it was brought above ground, but in an incomplete state. Fragments of the granary have been affixed with seeds of unknown form by New Huju, causing them to appear as UFOs and UFO. Different acronyms, by the way. Yeah. A warehouse, a flying ship, and a bunch of UFOs, a temple. Awfully busy, isn't it? By the way, in the Shigi-san Chronicle, the story of Myoden and where such were derived from, it said that Myoden's treasure was a flying bull, and its power was used to carry the warehouse. It's possible the same could be true in Toho, but it's also possible the granary just got powered up by Myoden living there for so long. And yes, that is what Flying Fantastica is based on. It's a flying bowl, not a flying saucer. A land in perfect silence, a tranquil map theme. The land in the case refers to Gensokyo. It's very atmospheric when played on snowy stages. Forest of Magic. A pristine forest that exists in Gensokyo. When one talks about the forest in Gensokyo, they almost always mean this one. Characters associated with the forest include Marissa, Alice, Rinosuke, and the Three Fairies of Light. Marissa, Alice, and the fairies all live in the forest, while Rinosuke's store, Cordindo, resides at its entrance. The fairies wind up moving later on in the series. Geographically, it's located fairly close to the human village. However, it is an incredibly harsh place for humans, with spores of monstrous mushrooms choking the air, causing most people to fall ill just by breathing. Apparently, even yokai find it hard to live here. When you hear about Magic Forest in an RPG setting, you tend to think of early game dungeons, but here in Gensokyo, it's one of the most dangerous locations around. The manual for Imperishable Night describes it as a place where all of Gensokyo's ample magic pools up. The Forest of Magic's entry in perfectly mental and strict sense includes an illustration of Akyuu surrounded by spores, a worrying sight for someone of their constitution. Supposedly, many of these monstrous mushrooms have hallucinogenic properties. It's said that many of the magicians residing here use them to enhance their abilities. Harmful Mystery. As we move into a new phase, we obviously needed new stage themes, and working with that in order in mind, I made this track. As a song with a heavy piano focus, I was worried how well it would suit moving your troops, but after hearing it during our test playthroughs, I was pleased to see how well it turned out. I also love the source song, Circus Rivare. It's eerie at first, but as soon as you hit the chorus, it rounds a corner, it becomes all cool and mysterious, right? I don't remember a lot of these unique tracks. Frozen Frog. A frog that has been frozen. Here then used to refer to the frogs frozen by Chirno specifically. Chirno's ability to manipulate the cold allows her to freeze things, which she often enjoys by freezing creatures solid. Amongst those, her favorite target is the humble frog. There's a particularly striking example of this in an article in Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red, which opens on her playing around by freezing frogs. While she likely freezes other creatures as well, it seems to seem like mostly strongly associated with frogs. Same article also depicts a fierce rivalry she developed with a giant toad, who swallowed her whole during her as a revenge for her pranks. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Chino hands out frozen frogs to her closest friends. There's something akin to her autograph. to an autograph, as freezing a frog so skillfully can only be done by her. As equipment goes, it seems the power of Chuno's friendship is worth about 10 starting power. Genbu Ravine. A ravine near Yokai Mountain. Lots of Kappa, including Tori, live around it. It's surrounded by steep, columnar forms of basalt, while its flowing streams punctuated by those fascinating hexagonal rock pillars. The area is a beautiful sight to behold, but isn't terribly important beyond that. That said, it first appeared in Strange and Bright Nature Deity and has shown up several more times since, including as a stage in both Scarlet Rhapsody and Hopeless Masquerade, so in that regard, the place shows up oddly frequently. Gensokyo Chronicle. That's a big read. Alright. The light found while grasping in the dark. Trojan Asteroid Jungle. It's a good one. Theme for use on particularly dense maps. Since lots of maps have specialized tracks already, I made another for Complete Box. It'll probably be used on some of the swampier maps. Apparently, if a song gets used on 2 different maps, it's considered a normal theme. This game sure is weird. But enough about that. I decided to mix things up with this arrangement by throwing in a dubstep-style wobble bass in the middle. Please look forward to it. Compilation put together by the Hieda clan provides a primer on the yokai, special human dangers, locations, and other noteworthy features of Gensokyo. It is primarily written for a human audience, with an emphasis on how to avoid danger when leaving the human village. In short, it is a guidebook on how to survive in Gensokyo. The first volume was put together over 1,000 years ago. Over 1,000 years ago by Hieda no Aichi, with subsequent volumes being compiled every century or so by his reincarnations, the child of Miyare. In the series, Zun's work, titled Perfect Momento, in strict sense, is presented as the 9th volume, written in character by Akyuu, excluding some parts like the afterword. Another book titled Symposion. Why are there so many fucking errors here? Symposion of Post-Mysticism is also presented as an in-character work produced by Akyuu. You got both of those wrong! Though it's not clear if this is intended as an addendum to her previous work or a standalone product. That said, in the afterword, Akyuu makes mention, also Akyuu spelled with 1 U, the previous Gensokyo Chronicle, which might imply that all works penned by her relating to Gensokyo collectively make up Gensokyo Chronicle's 9th installment. At the very least, that symposium of post-mysticism style of introducing yokai throughout the text is exactly the same as in Perfect Memento in strict sense, so it should be treated like a supplement. Generally speaking, any attributions made throughout the game's glossary to Symposium of Post-Mysticism or Perfect Memento in strict sense are, by transitive property, descriptions found in the 9th Gensokyo Chronicle. The original purpose of the compilations was to raise awareness of potential dangers for humans, but as Gensokyo has, over time, become a safer and more peaceful place, with more people being perfectly safe in the human village, its contents have shifted to being a collection of interesting details about yokai. This shift in purpose was a deliberate choice on Akyuu's part, adapting her prior self-style to better fit with the times. It must be stressed thusly that the sole writer of the Gensokyo Chronicle is Akyuu, so all the descriptions are based on the information available to her and shaped by her biases. As a matter of fact, there are some descriptions in Perfect Memento in strict sense that are objectively incorrect, particularly concerning the details of Imperishable Night. And even when her statements are based in truth, some of her descriptions and hypotheses get way out there. There are indications of yokai appealing to Akyuu directly about their portrayals, like tell everyone how strong I am, and it's possible some embellishments were made on their behalf, but it's hard to say where. And if we might be permitted to engage in speculation for a moment, does that not sound like that a certain somebody full of charisma might request, one that often comes to Human Village, to play, perhaps? Goo? Danmaku Tactics. A fairly relaxed enemy phase theme. I figured tactics was more important in a strategy game than a shmup, hence the name. Danmaku is tactics, daze. That said, this game can be pretty tough, especially considering the Danmaku system. A lot of tough stages in the mid to late game, so will less experienced players struggle? I worry about these things. Regardless, just using the characters you like and immersing yourself in the world of Toho is its own kind of fun, so you should play on whatever difficulty suits you best. Golden Super Aki Sisters kick! Behold the Aki Sisters, their unwavering bond, their grueling training, their spirit, their resolve distilled down into a kick. Watch as they soar, a pair of radiant gold stars driving down their power of autumn into their foes. Great Hakude Barrier. One of the 2 barriers separating Gensokyo from the outside world. It was erected several hundred years ago. As human society progressively modernized and continued existence of yokai was called into question, prompting its construction by the yokai sages. How exactly this is done is never detailed, but the Shrine Maiden's typical duties, including yokai extermination, are components of maintaining balance in the world within the barrier. We can therefore assume that mostly everything she does is tied to managing the barrier. It acts as the dividing line between the common sense of the outside world and the nonsense of the inner world, Gensokyo. As far as the story is concerned, this has two primary effects. Firstly, in order to ensure Gensokyo's independence, it greatly restricts travel between the two worlds. This effect is why humans so rarely visit from the outside world, even though the terrain connecting the two ought to be contiguous. Secondly, it draws in the nonsense from the outside world. The outside world's common sense denies what is nonsense, so Gensokyo becomes the natural destination for anything thus denied. As the border permitting Gensokyo continued existence, the barrier is one of the most important elements of Toho's setting. Printworks in the series often denote the Uth season as a way of telling time, with the Great Barrier's construction as its year zero. Its incorporation into the calendar just goes to show how important it is. Managing the Great Hakude Barrier is the primary job of the Hakude Shrine Maiden. How exactly this is done is never detailed, but the Shrine Maiden's typical duties, including yokai extermination, are components of maintaining balance in the world within the barrier. We can therefore assume that mostly everything she does is tied to managing the barrier. So yeah, the barrier exists. The barrier exists to draw in things that are can be explained with common sense. Hence why fantasy slips in. But common sense is kept out. That's why you can't just walk into Reimu home and suddenly be there. But there are cases of being spirited away or slipping through the barrier that are never really explored in any real detail. Invasion of Bewitching Spirits, a quicker paced enemy phase theme. I imagine you being swarmed by evil spirits and other sort of mooks while making this. The song recreates the sense of speed from IN Stage 4. Grilled lamprey. Grilled lamprey are lamprey that have been grilled. What else can I say? I've never tried one before. Lamprey belong to the superclass of Cyclostomi, characterized by their large jawless mouths. Most people find them grotesque. While not particularly common, lamprey are highly nutritious, and Japan has a long history of eating them. Must be noted, though, that although sometimes called lamprey eels, they're actually not related to eels at all and taste nothing like them. As far as Toho is concerned, lamprey are most well known as one of the main dishes served at Mistia's food cart, working on the old folk wisdom that lamprey are good for the eyes. She gives people night blindness before selling them the remedy. Very shady indeed. We can extrapolate from this that how lamprey tastes is inconsequential to Mistia's business, and she never really given her thoughts on them. Probably for the best, really. Naturally, Fantasy Maiden Wars introduces them as equipment. All those nutrients make them the perfect pick-me-up. Taste may not be for everyone, apparently, but they all seem to be enjoying it. Reinforcements, theme of the hated yokai. The theme of enemy reinforcements appearing. I wrote the song in the game's early days, so for some reason I based it on Satori Maiden. I guess I picked it to represent enemies suddenly appearing because mind readers aren't well liked in Toho. Akyuu Gokuro. A location in the underworld. No. What? No. No, not underworld, netherworld. It is a very large Japanese-style mansion with an expansive garden. Its master is Yukosai Yoji, with Yomu Konpaku attending to the garden. The courtyard is so large that Aya once claimed that she couldn't see the end of it, no matter how fast she flew. Though considering there are no other documented buildings in the netherworld, it's hard to say what even counts as a garden. The garden is full to the brim with cherry blossom trees and becomes a sea of petals in spring. It also features a kare sensui, a traditional Japanese rock garden. Oh my god, a garden for rocks? Viewable from the main hall. Though notable for spring, it accentuates each season splendidly and is surely the most beautiful place in the netherworld all year round. How do you have it right that time? The third fucking time you get it right, and you don't bother fixing it the first two? Supposedly the garden is open to the public, resulting in it being crowded with ghosts. Since the events of PCB, the barrier separated from Gensokyo has weakened, and so its residents often come to visit for flower viewing parties. Despite Akyuu Gokuro being one of the largest buildings in all of Toho, its only permanent occupants are Yuyuko and Yomu. Supposedly, they employ ghosts to help with daily chores, but even counting them, the place is just excessively big. By the way, there's an old Chinese idiom roughly translating to become a resident of Akyuu Gokuro, which is used to refer to the death of famous writers. The idiom stems from a legend in which a poet on his deathbed was visited by a messenger in his dream, inviting him to come to Akyuu Gokuro. Thereafter, Akyuu Gokuro, also known as the White Jade Palace, nobody knows it as that, became known as the place literally figures go then they pass away. This legend helped to inspire Toa's version of Akyuu, although you'll have to read up on Yuriko's backstory for more details. Nobody calls it that. The Tower of White Jade. As time stands still, a tense map theme. I like how well it is converted into a map theme, even when maintaining its atmosphere. I enjoy how the piano plinks away and echoes. Hakude Shrine. A shrine located on the eastern edge of Gensokyo. Standing at the border of Gensokyo in the outside world is one of the most important locations in the story. It has been the primary residence of the Hakude Shrine Maiden for generations, Rainbow included, of course. It's blessed with a scenic view overlooking Gensokyo and some of the most beautiful cherry blossoms. Yokai often gather there thanks to Rainbow's proclivities. It's often noted that there's always someone hanging out there. Thanks to all the yokai hanging around, as well as the distance from the human village, it rarely receives normal guests. Naturally, this has led to its dearth of donations, much to Rainbow's chagrin. As an aside, the shrine is not in Gensokyo, strictly speaking, but rather on its border. That said, considering which side is easier to get to from, also because it's just easier to explain, it's generally treated as part of Gensokyo. For what it's worth, due to its proximity to the outside world, people and items from outside sometimes wind up there, making it an appealing destination for collectors of oddities. Scarlet Pressure. Remilia's map theme. Charisma, full throttle. With this thought in mind, I tried making it magnificent all throughout, featuring a prominent pipe organ. I doubt you'll find many more ostentatious Tepes arrangements out there. By the way, the two notes repeating at the start are actually Remi, Remi, Remi. Oh, because she's Remilia, you see? Huh. How about that? Headbutt. From wrestling to martial arts, a headbutt is a technique in which you strike your opponent with your forehead. As Toho goes, when you think of headbutts, you think of Kane. This comes from her entry in Perfect Momentum and Strict Sense, which notes she headbutts students will forget to do their homework. Furthermore, if you bother her when she's busy during the full moon, you can expect a horned headbutt. Big ouch, for sure. Compared to normal punishments like a slap on the wrist, it seems like it would be hard to control the amount of force applied, not to mention the pain inflicted upon the user. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, this technique is elevated to a frankly bizarre degree, and it even has its own dedicated theme song. Setting aside whether or not this even deserves to be a spell card, its animation was made with passion. It's all sorts of twists and turns, and you'd be surprised at how many times the storyboard was scrapped and redone. Heaven. A world that exists above Gensokyo, inhabited by celestials and celestial maidens. Its exact location is uncertain. In Perfect Memento and Strict Sense, it's written that it exists high in the sky above the netherworld, while in the Scarlet Weather Rhapsody, Sakura has to pass through Yokai Mountain to get there, with Iku confirming that it's above the mountain. Either which way, you can definitely head there by heading upwards from Gensokyo. Heaven is typically regarded as one of the places humans can go after passing on. Supposedly, the Yama assigns the newly dead to either head there, or else the netherworld or hell. Of these, heaven is undoubtedly the best result one can hope for. Unfortunately, ascending to heaven is prohibited due to land shortages. Its primary residents are celestials who removed the cycle of reincarnation, live their eternal lives unburned by earthly concerns. Its description fits the general mold of a paradise after death, filled with ascendant beings who have renounced their worldly desires and attained enlightenment. Of it, the series' first major celestial, Tenchi, once said, "Every day is singing, singing, drinking, dancing, and singing again, over and over. Life in heaven is really carefree." It all seems to fit with our picture thus far. On the other hand, Yukari categorically denied this characterization. Them leaving their worldliness behind is just a lie, too. In truth, it's just one big hive of conniving bastards. Apparently, all that talk about land shortages was a lie, perpetuated by Celestials just because they hate feeling cramped. Information on the state of heaven as a whole is rather limited, but it's undoubtedly the home of those who aren't bound by earthly values. In that regard, it feels less like a region of Gensokyo and more like its own distinct world, like the moon. Fucking Celestials. Soul of Scarlet. Flan's map theme. While it omitted in the header above, this track is actually a medley comprised of every stage theme from EOSD. That includes the Soul of Scarlet as a ground cherry, Lunet Elf, Chinese Tea, Volée the Magic Library, the Maid in the Pocket Watch of Blood, the Young Descendant of Tepes, and the Centennial Festival for Magical Girls. Here we go again, OP song time. The Zunpits resound. An orchestra befitting a final battle. Please enjoy the culmination of the Scarlet chapter. I love these final chapter medleys. They're so fucking good. Hide and Seek. A game for 2 or more players. In most versions, the participants are divided into the Hiders and the Seeker, also it or the Oni in Japan. Onigoko is tag. The game starts with the Seeker closing their eyes and counting to some number. Meanwhile, the Hiders try to find hiding spots to avoid being found. The number the Seeker counts to depends on who's playing, generally. If the number is too small, like 3, then the Hider won't have enough time to find a good spot. While if the number is too big, like 3,983, then both sides risk getting bored before the count is up. Also, numbers involving decimals are typically avoided on account of being too complicated. The Hiders are usually free to pick wherever they want to hide, so long as it falls within a certain range to play. Typical examples include within the park grounds or anywhere in the house. I am getting lore dumped on hide and seek. In Japan, once the Seeker has counted the number, they'll shout something like "everyone ready," and the Hiders can respond with either "ready" or "not yet." This keeps going until all the Hiders feel like they've got a good enough spot. In theory, the Hiders can keep delaying indefinitely, but in practice, the Seeker is likely to get bored long before then and just start searching, citing any possible number of excuses. This is all in stark contrast to typically observed rules in the West, where the Seeker will usually shout, "ready or not, here I come," and just start searching without delay. Regardless of how the players get here, it is at the phase of the game that the Seeker begins searching for the Hiders. The rule of this phase varies widely between playgroup. In some groups, the Seeker just needs to spot someone and declare, "I found you," for them to be out. In others, the Seeker needs to approach and physically touch the Hider for it to count. A caught Hider might have to wait out until the game ends, or they might join the Seeker's team, with many other possible outcomes besides. Depending on the exact rules, there can be a lot of overlap with other games, like tag. After all the Hiders have been caught, the game starts over with a new person, often the first person to get caught in the previous round playing the Seeker. There's generally no keeping scores or tabulation of winning and loss records, nor is there any convention for how many rounds the game repeats. Typically, the game ends when the participants got bored or when it's time to go home. There have been many unfortunate cases of players needing to leave the game without being able to or simply choosing not to inform the other participants of their withdrawal. I'm getting hide and seek lore during Goose theme. You can't get any better than this. This well-known game is depicted in the manga Strange and Bright Nature Deity, played by Chirno and Daiose. 3 fairies of light also note that their ability gives them a strong advantage when playing. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, we often see fairies playing this game. However, fairies are forgetful and get bored easily, so it's possible the game's current popularity is just a passing fad. We got through a whole loop of that reading that. Advancing Headwinds. The exclusive player phase theme during the showdown with the Moria Shrine. Cemetery of Mombashira really ramps up the tension, doesn't it? You might be tempted to rush your entire army in, but this battle is likely to be a long one, so be careful not to run out of resources prematurely. This is one of my top 5 favorite songs to make in the Mystic chapter. The tempo and vibe helped me just glide through the creation process. Hieda family. A long-time lineage within the human village, currently headed by Hieda no Akyuu. The clan's livelihood revolves around the Gensokyo Chronicle compiled by the child of Miyade, who reincarnates every 100 or so years. Aside from the child of Miyade, there are a few details about other members of the family. It's known that the Hieda family owns the largest private collection of books and other documents in the human village, so one assumes that at least some members assist in managing that. Also, it wouldn't be surprised if Akyuu herself had a few attendants. Scarlet Devil Bansh's entry in Perfect Mental Strict Sense notes that their book collection is the largest in Gensokyo, including the Hieda families. Considering that they're limited to what they can get in their relatively small human village, it's no wonder they lose in size. Hill the Nameless. A location introduced in Phantasmagoria Flower View, sometimes mistranslated as Nameless Hill, stemming from some deliberate wordplay, see below. So named because it's a place where many unwanted children were abandoned in the past. The location is host to many Suzodon. It's described that the toxic fumes played some part in why people abandoned babies there. Although this practice stopped long ago, people avoided going there for so long that it gradually faded from memory, with Akyuu describing it as a place that Gensokyo forgot. 168. Footsteps of the War God's Army. Seeing as I was responsible for all the music appearing in the stage anyway, I created a special enemy phase theme. In contrast to its speedy player phase counterpart, this theme is like an imposing imperial march, reflecting the dignity of gods and the weight of their history. Both tracks are based on the same original, so it might be interesting to compare them. I like that the Sanai boss stage gets 2 unique enemy and player themes. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. Come on! Hokai. The place where Byakuren was sealed. Murasa describes it as just one tiny corner of the infinitely expansive Makai. The exact details are unclear, but it is known that Byakuren was sealed away in a purified space here by the power of the Flying Granary. It seems that while sealed, she was otherwise free to do as she pleased, and it was here that she crafted the Sorcerer's Sutra Scroll. Fantasy Maiden Wars operates under the most salient assumptions. Instead, all the talk about how dangerous the seal is or how Makai will be overrun by monsters if the seal is undone is mostly all new. The original games offer no descriptions to that effect, so Fantasy Maiden Wars' version of events is exaggerated for dramatic purposes. Hot Spring. An onsen or hot spring is a spring of hot water gushing out of the ground containing various minerals. For the details, we recommend you search the term online. In Toho context, hot springs are associated with the plot of subterranean animism as one gushed forth near the Hakude Shrine. During that game's plot, it appeared that bathing in it was possible. However, in Wildhorn Hermit, a different one was adorned with poisonous gas signs and was swamped by vengeful spirits. Regardless, judging by everyone's reactions, this was no Gensokyo's first hot spring, so several others most exist. You mean not Gensokyo's first hot spring? It is quite the mountainous region, so it would be picture perfect if they had one in the human village. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, the circumstance behind the hot springs are identical to the originals, but it quickly got converted into a bathhouse for the protagonist. One has to assume it's poisonous gas-free. 169. Above the dazzling cherry blossoms. Reaching the climax of the Mystic chapter, we have the theme for Yuko's stage. I have deeply attached to this stage, stemming from my first playthrough of Perfect Cherry Blossom and the awe I felt upon hearing the original version of Ultimate Truth for the first time. It was one of the main reasons I fell in love with Toho. Much like moments where Confusion Beneath the Moonlight is played, the song set the scene for a stage full of intense battles. I took the tense atmosphere and that feeling of racing above a sea of cherry blossoms, carefully arranged it into this sharp break beat style arrangement. What lies beneath the cherry blossom tree and what stories does it hide? I put a lot of effort into the song, so to my fellow Perfect Cherry Blossom fans, please enjoy. Human Village. A village in Gensokyo predominantly inhabited by humans. While known as just being the human village, all lowercase, it is a specific location of importance, but as the only place where most humans live, it does not require a specific name. By the same logic, characters referencing the village also almost always mean the human village. Though the majority of its population is human, there are exceptions, including a few werebeasts like Cain, as well non-humans sometimes visit the shop. Perfect Mentor Strict Sense notes the existence of specialty shops that accept yokai patrons at night, and that yokai and humans often intermingle at bars. Though normally unthinkable, Gensokyo stages a decree that yokai are not to attack humans inside the village, thus creating this scenario. The human village was first mentioned in passing in Imperishable Night, though more recent works like Forbidden Scrollery put a greater emphasis on its importance. It started showing up more in recent games as well. The idea that Gensokyo's humans live somewhere isn't all that noteworthy on its own, but since Mountain of Faith, there's been an increase in work focusing on the beliefs and faiths of the common folk. While specific details about its size and population are scarce, we at least know from recent work that it's quite big on a scale of a large town. As an aside, Marissa's family runs a large hardware store there. Though the human village has friendly enough relations with the yokai, Bohemian Archive of Japanese Red revealed the existence of a secret society hoping to expel all yokai from Gensokyo. It seems the human village is host to a diversity of ideologies. Fantasy Maiden Wars mostly sticks to the canonical setting, though the village is set up as a collection of several settlements. Scarlet Arc features one established by the Hieda family, a bustling commerce town with plenty of snack shops. The Ayakashi Shed Spring. Yukari's map theme. Here we have a PCB medley including the title screen's theme, Snow or Cherry Petal, as well as 6 stage themes. Deep Mountain, the Fantastic Tales of Tono, the doll maker of Buccaretti. The capital city of flowers in the sky, Ancient Temple, and Ultimate Truth. This battle features a double-layered structure where the relationship between Yukari and Yuko is discussed through her spell cards, and your units dig deeper through their pre-battle conversations. It's pretty interesting to see what everyone has to say to her. Each character has their own unique perspective, letting a sense of depth and breadth to the world, which is what inspired the song's title. Jeweled Pagoda, a Buddhist tool owned by Sho Torimaru. Symposium of Post-Mysticism clearly presents it as a weapon able to emit a light that burns through anything. It's described as a gemstone channeling its radiance in the form of a laser. When the beam hits the ground, the gamma rays transmogrify, that's a crazy word, the soil into more gemstone. Now, I'm no physics expert or anything, but I'm pretty sure gamma rays can't do that. Though its exact origin isn't clear, considering its full title is the Jewel Pagoda of Bishamoten, one can assume that it was gifted to Sho to act in his stead. Although it's also possible Byakuren made it just to boost Sho's cred. Cred? Really? The pagoda was one of the items necessary for rescuing Byakuren, which begs the question, why? Considering Sho, and by extension the pagoda's role in sealing Byakuren, it's clear there's plenty of juicy drama to be inferred there. Kappa. A race of river-dwelling yokai residing in Yokai Mountain. They possess advanced technology and produce a wide variety of gadgets. Their technology far exceeds humanity's, and their tools are described in Perfect Memento and Strict Sense as one of the two greatest types yokai have available. The other being tools from the outside world. On Yokai Mountain, they have set up shop alongside the Tengu, putting their technological contributions on full display. They have quite plentiful as a species, with numbers enough to represent a civilization all on their own. That said, they seem poor at cooperation. And the manga Wildhorn Hermit showcases many of their projects failing due to adherence to blueprints or lack of adherence to blueprints or self-motivated workers. Due in part to living on Yokai Mountain and also to their lack of social skills, Kappa rarely interact with humans. On the other hand, Perfect Memento Strict Sense makes no particular mention of their interaction with humans beyond secret observations and one-sided relationships. On the other hand, Symposium would post mysticism would later document Itori as threat level high, human friendship level medium, and described her as someone who might drag you into a river and rip out your Shuriko Dama. And on the third mechanical hand, okay, that same section notes that Kappa often flee when approached alone, and that humans are permitted to shop at Kappa Bazaar, so their threat level isn't constant. As mentioned earlier, they are highly populous yokai, as one might encounter a wide variety of personalities. As the world of Toho, where yokai look like humans is basically the norm, they stand out as specifically having turtle shells on their backs and plates on their heads. In Curiosity in Lotus Asia, Minosuke hypothesizes that they began as suppan, Chinese soft-shelled turtles that transformed into yokai over time. And in our real world, Kappa have countless legends associated with them, and are one of the most well-known types of yokai in Japan, alongside Tengu and Oni. We can assume it's no coincidence then that such quintessential yokai will be living on Yokai Mountain. Sacred Stone said to suppress Namazu, the giant underground catfish that causes earthquakes. They actually exist and can be found in places like Kashima Shrine and Ibaraki Prefecture, or Katori Shrine in Chiba Prefecture. Nice. You got the word wrong and they get the word right 5 words later. They're fairly famous tourist attractions thanks to various legends surrounding them, but the keystones at each shrine are buried mostly underground, so you can only really see the topmost part. As far as Toho goes, Tenchi has the ability to manipulate them. In Scarlet Weather Rhapsody's Omake text, it's noted that only the Hinanai clan can insert or remove Gensokyo's keystones. Inserting one into the ground will suppress earthquakes, but removing one will remove the pent-up energy and cause one. In that regard, they should be handled with utmost caution. In-game, they're tools used by Tenchi at about the size where you'd need both hands to hold one. They can also be used as blunt weapons, provided platforms for Tenchi to fly around on or even fire off lasers. Truly versatile weapons. As an aside, the keystone at Omura Shrine in Mie Prefecture is wrapped in a Shiminawa sacred rope, much like Tenchi's are. Midnight Starstorm. Confusion beneath the moonlight, above the dazzling cherry blossoms, and a midnight starstorm. At long last, the trio is complete. Self-satisfaction aside, this is the theme of the Reimu vs. Marissa stage. If you're doing Imperishable Night, it's an event you absolutely gotta cover, right? If you're going in blind on your first playthrough, you might be surprised by the big shots that the other side had recruited. Though the stage features the most important characters in all of Fantasy Maiden Wars, I focused on Reimu and Marissa themselves, producing this lively and boisterous festival-like song. Towards the end of the arrangement, Maiden's Cappuccino and the Love Color Master Spark alternate, almost as if Reimu and Marissa were competing for the highest score. Please enjoy the swift and spirited nighttime brawl. It's one of the best stages in the game. Korindo. An antique shop located at the entrance of the Forest of Magic. Minosuke Morchika is its proprietor. Though it may look like an ordinary store selling items on display, nothing is a listed price, so you need to haggle if something catches your eye. The shop sells a wide variety of goods with Perfect Memento Strict Sense, noting that it trades in outside world, magic, yokai, or even netherworld items. Anything goes. In addition to the store being hard to reach, Minosuke is not particularly sociable. He tends to hoard his most valuable finds, so business is not exactly booming. That said, he still stocks items that he can't be found anywhere else, so its customer base is small but loyal. While Korindo itself trades in anything rare, Minosuke has a thing for tools of the outside world, so he tends to stock them on anything that drifts in against Sokyo. Lunar capital. A large city on the moon as per the name. Much like Gensokyo in the outside world, it resides within a barrier cast across the lunar surface. It is effectively impossible to locate the lunar capital with modern technology. On the other hand, a rocket from Gensokyo powered by fantasy can reach it just fine. It is a land bereft of the impurities its residents abhor, and bringing impurity to the moon is forbidden. According to Toyohime, to live on the earth is inherently sinful, and being forced to crawl upon its surface till death is their punishment. The crimes and punishments of surface dwellers are isolated to Earth in their entirety, and so it must seem a very distant world to the citizens of the moon. These notions of sinfulness seem to stem from the impurities of the Earth and not a disdain for Earthlings specifically. At the very least, most of the Lunarians that have appeared thus far have been relatively open-minded and friendly with Reimu. Thus far, there have been essentially zero travel to or from Gensokyo, and any means of transportation are near impossible to come by. Despite that, the existence of the lunar capital is widely known, and most of its basic details have been documented by Akyuu in perfect memento and strict sense. During the Genso Lunar War, the yokai forces, of which Yukari was a key figure, were humiliated by the moon's modernized military technology, so it's possible the information spread for its survivors. As an aside, both Silence Center and Blue and Symposium of Post-Mysticism make note of lunar capital's relationship with the Dragon Palace, including Celestials being among its populace, but the exact details remain unclear. A return along the Night Road. A new map theme added for the Eternity chapter. While Fantasy Maiden Wars is known for its character-specific themes, it's nice to have some variety in the stage themes too, right? As you move into the latter half of the game, more and more stages have their own unique themes, so you might not have a chance to listen to these generic themes. Instead, I encourage you to pop into the music room on occasion. Unknown Flower Mesmerizing Journey is actually a really good theme. It's the only original song on a 3-album track that has the same name. It's a mini album. It was a mini album originally made, dedicated to, I think it was the 2011 earthquakes. I think that's when it was. But yeah, it was a little tribute album for specifically for that, and it had 3 songs, 2 remixes. It had Unknown Flower, Mesmerizing Journey. I believe it had a remix of Yesterday. Tomorrow Will Be Special. Yesterday Was Not, and there was one other one in there. But Unknown Flower, Mesmerizing Journey is a very good original track. But there's no Hifu story to that, but Hifu is on the album. Magician. In Toho, the term magician has 2 possible meanings. In the first case, we have magicians by trade, like Marissa. In the second case, we have magicians by birthright, like Patchouli. Having the word refer to 2 different but related concepts and having some people in both categories, while other only in one or the 2, certainly makes it a confusing term. Magicians as a species are considered a type of yokai, as their bodies are fueled by their magic, needing neither sleep or food. Despite this, physically, they're no stronger than most humans. Considering Patchouli's asthma, some of them might even be weaker. From here onwards, unless otherwise specified, we'll only be discussing magicians as species. We can subdivide magicians into 2 types: those who were human but trained to become a magician, and those who were magicians from birth. For humans, the moment they learn abandoned food magic and can sustain themselves entirely only their own magic is the moment they cease being human and become a magician. In this state, they'll still continue to age and retain their human lifespan, so they're not yet considered a full-fledged magician. In the case of natural-born magicians, they can sustain themselves on magic from birth, so they can skip that first step. However, they still need to complete the magic to suspend their aging to be considered a full-fledged magician. It seems that completing these 1 or 2 steps takes most people a very long time, so in the outside world, most complete magicians look quite old. However, in Gensokyo, thanks to many advancements in magical research, younger-looking magicians are more common. Oh, is that so? Alice, who grew up in Makai and became a magician at a young age, is a good example of this. Oh, is she? Going by that logic, the fact that Patchouli achieved it while still living in the outside world implies she either has a tremendous talent for magic or else restored her youth magically like Byakuren. Although if it were the latter case, then one would think that all the outside world magicians would be doing it, which would make it so the stereotype of the old man in wizard robes wouldn't exist. There's a few different ways to square that circle, with the simplest explanation that Byakuren's case was special and Patchouli's just that good. From here onwards, we head into speculation territories. First, you should know that the age suspending magic is known as Sutemushi, abandoned insects magic. It is our supposition that it is derived from the 3 worms of Taoist belief. The 3 worms, aka 3 corpses, are said to be creatures residing in a human's body from birth, observing their actions and reporting their sins to the Yama, or Shangdi, depending, thereby shortening their lifespan. All sorts of rituals have been devised and actually practiced to prevent their reports. Can you believe it, chat? In Taoist lore, there are 3 worms that live in your body and narc on you to the Yama. and humans have actively practiced ways to catch these worms who'll be narking on them. Oh, we are a species. Like not sleeping on the days the 3 worms are meant to deliver their report. Good idea. If you don't sleep, the worms can't slip out of your body and they can't make their report. Ergo, you'll never, no troublemaker reports. It should go without saying that fully eliminating them like magicians do would be sure to extend your life for a long time. So to become a magician, you have to kill your inner worms so that they can no longer report your misdeeds and your lifespan never decreases. Yes. Yes, it makes perfect sense when you all put it together like that. Surpassing their eternity. The theme of the final stage of the Imperishable Night arc. While by now I'm sure you're used to the final battle's accompaniment being a medley of previous themes, see it as we're borrowing the eternity in this chapter's name anyway, I figured I would perhaps recklessly take on the challenge myself this time. Starting with the title theme, Eternal Night Vignette, we roll the ghostly eyes, Night Nerd, Old World, Imperishable Night, Cinderella Cage, Boys 1969, and Extend Ash. This densely packed arrangement. The story progressed a bit differently from the original game, and since you handled Moko's matter already, I decided Extend Ash needed to be in there. Man, though, orchestral arrangements are really tiresome. Come to think of it, I feel like Kobu said as much to me once. Makai. A parallel world appearing and highly responsive to prayers, Mixed Square, and undefined fantastic object. 1512. In theory, each game is referring to the same place, but in practice, the details offered are so varied it's hard to say for sure they are. In Mystic Square, Makai is described as a world created by Shinki, and many of its residents called Makaijin show up in-game. All sorts of buildings and cities appear, and it's apparently large enough to have its own commercial travel agencies. That is the plot of the game. Meanwhile, in UFO, the Hokai that Byakuya has sealed away is described as just one tiny corner of the infinitely expansive Makai. Several yokai make appearances, but none of the Makijin from before. Either way, both games make clear that it's a perfect environment for honing one's magical prowess. As an aside, although details from Mystic Square are never directly addressed in Undefined Fantastic Object, there are a few references made to it. For example, large buildings show up in the background of UFO Stage 6, and Byakuya herself uses a spell that resembles one of Shinki's attacks. Looking at all that, one can't help but feel that UFO is taking a fair bit of inspiration from the older generation. Okay, chat, I'll be right back. I have to use the bathroom, and I'd like to get a drink because of my throat. But we are going to finish this. I'm going to finish this because there's not that much left. I'll be right back. I am Steve. Are you ready? Alright. Against the endless sea of stars. Theme of the space retreat map. Man, the Maiden Wars has really come a long way, hasn't it? Personally, I love all the tracks from Magical Astronomy, and I'm pleased to get this arrange this one. The infinite expansion of the sense and the mysterious feeling of floating in space where you never know what could happen next. I hope this song gets all that across. Can Rainbow and her friends shake off the moon's elite forces? Find out next time. Malice Cannon. A fan nickname for the Aria of Forbidden Magic team's combined attack and imperishable night. The name is a portmanteau of Marissa and Alice. By rapidly tapping the focus key to shift between Marissa and Alice, you can overlay both of their shot types together. It's tricky to get right, but very powerful when executed properly. The power it boasts is no joke, so it's hard to avoid bringing it up when talking about the Aria team. By the way, you can't do this with the other teams because all their shots disappear when you switch characters. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, it first appeared in the Scarlet Arc as the Proto-Malice Cannon. At the time, it was limited to just them unloading Danmaku on the enemy. They finally mastered it in the Eternity Arc, largely because Imperishable Night is where the technique came from in the first place. Marissa and Alice launched their Danmaku while flying around, hopefully doing justice to the original technique's legend. Mare Tranquillitatis, a real location of the moon, also known as the Sea of Tranquility. It's not actually a sea though, it's just a large basalt basin. It's called a sea because it appears as a dark patch when viewed from the Earth. The moon has many locations referred to as seas, and the Sea of Tranquility is just one of them. Mare Tranquillitatis is the landing site for Apollo 11, making it the first patch of lunar soil set foot on by mankind. Within the world of Toho, there is a location on the moon bearing the same name, but the similarities end there. Here, just as the name might suggest, there is an actual sea filled with real water, though it is still a desolate place with neither people nor impurity. According to Cajun lunatic Runegate, it is located geographically opposite to the lunar capital on the moon's outskirts. There's a secret passage connecting the two called the Sea Route, which Yukari had one of their familiars attempt to traverse. It appears to be the place closest to the surface, as the location where humanity invaded the moon, and that way it serves as the connecting point between the lunar world and the outside world. As an aside, Vermilia's team crash landed at Mare Fecunditatis, Sea of Fertility, which is equally full of water and equally devoid of life. In the real world, the two seas are located right next to each other. Cool. Hellfire Mantle. Hell's Mantle. The deepest depths of Burning Hell's map theme. I really wanted to capture the essence of SA's Stage 16, so it's similar to the original. However, I emphasized the timpani to give it a more strategy game feel. You'll occasionally hear some bleeps on the right, which are meant to sound like an alarm. Also throw in bass, synthesizers, and a bunch of electronic sounds in your typical orchestral affair to make it sound more science-y. Utsuo is strong as heck and a lot of skills, so give her your best shot. Master Spark! Marissa Kirisame's signature spell card, Love Sign Master Spark, a simple but powerful form of magic firing an ultra-thick beam of light from her mini Hakudo. It represents Marissa's philosophy that Danmaku is all about firepower. Across the series, it's used as a bomb for Love Sign Shot Type Marissa. It varies a bit from game to game, but in general, it's an extremely powerful bomb with high firepower and wide range. Where did we go wrong? Between all the various blank sparks, and as well as non-spark variants like Blazing Star and Star Sign Dragon Meteor, it gets a lot of mileage out of the concept. Widely considered to be one of the most destructive techniques ever cooked up by a human, their shared firepower is no joke. Once in Silent Center in Blue while facing engine troubles, they even relied on our Master Spark to supplement their spaceship's engine, albeit half-jokingly. Going back to the PC-98 games, Yuka was once depicted firing a very similar ultra-thick laser at the time, before the Master Spark existed, thus creating the fan theory that Marissa stole Yuka's technique. For this reason, people sometimes call Yuka's technique the original Master Spark. However, even if the Master Spark was indeed a reference to Yuka's move, it was Marissa who took the important step of giving it a name, making it definitively her own spell card. Fantasy Maiden Wars adapts the above idea into Marissa developing the spell herself, using Yuka's technique as a reference. Marissa's prized magical furnace produces flames by consuming magical power as fuel. Hakudo's output is incredibly flexible. On the low end, it can keep low temperature flames going all night long, perfect for simmering, while on the high end, it can reduce them out into ashes. Marissa uses it for cooking, as noted above, experimenting with magic, and for her signature spell card, Master Spark. The Mini Hakuto was assembled by Renosuke Morchika and is undoubtedly one of her finest creations. Rather famously, it's noted in Curiosity to Lotus Asia, Chapter 6, that he made it for Marissa after she ran away from home. However, he also muses about that magical heating furnace I made long ago. In Chapter 11, implying he made it to heat up his house. Taken together, it seems like he originally created it as a furnace for personal use, and then later modified it for Marissa as a gift after she left her parents. By melting down and mixing various tools into it, it can be granted their functionalities, giving it a high degree of versatility. The furnace is strongly associated with the Master Spark, which itself is strongly associated with Marissa. In that regard, the Mini Hakuto is emblematic of who Marissa is as a person. If you took her Hakuto away, how would she fight you? Smoldering Ash, the Eternity Chapter's final stage theme. There were medleys of the Scarlet and Mystic Chapter's final stages, so you might have expected one for subterranean animism as well. This time, however, I stuck to arranging Last Remote to better suit the mood of the story. The original is one of my top 2 songs in all of Toho, so this was pretty easy to make. Loads of build-up, and then the chorus kicks into high gear all at once. I'd like to think I managed to create a Last Remote without destroying the original's charm. By the way, the original song is called that, and pronounced Kaijin. It signifies something disappearing without leaving a trace. Misty Lake. The lake at the foot of Yokai Mountain. It is known as the Misty Lake because of the fog often enveloping it during the day. It's fed by the main river flowing through Yokai Mountain, and Kappa can sometimes be spotted drifting along the current. It is described as being small enough that you could walk around its perimeter in half a koku, about 1 hour, which is at average walking pace would put it at 5 kilometers, fairly small for a lake. For example, Lake Shojin, the smallest of the Fuji 5 lakes, is about 6.8 kilometers. Lake Biwa, the most famous lake in Japan, has a circumference of 241 kilometers. As a body of water, it attracts many yokai and fairies, which, considering its proximity to the Scarlet Double Mansion and Yokai Mountain, makes it quite dangerous. However, it apparently still gets fishermen from the human village visiting. According to Perfect Memento and Strict Sense, you can often catch fish around 2 to 5 fathoms in length, with some reaching as big as 10 fathoms. The fuck is a fathom? A fathom, for reference, is about 1.8 meters, so these fish are monstrously huge. Makes you wonder how a human could catch one. Wow, okay. Actually, if you could catch such a fish, Misty Lake probably doesn't scare you very much. While the lake doesn't serve as the base for one particular faction, it shows up a lot just due to its location, with recent games revealing that mermaids live there. Oh, do they? It's a bit worrying to think that a certain girl who struggles to kill insects is living next to a 10+ meter fish. As another example, Misty Lake appears during the Inaba manga, in which the Aentei crew go fishing there. Here too, talk of mysterious fish over 5 fathoms long catches Kaguya's fancy, so she sets out to reel one in. You'll have to read it yourself to see how well she did. In the same chapter, Moko mentions that amateurs have no chance with the fish here, implying she fishes here regularly. The fish might be top class, but your skills as an angler have to be top class as well. Wagasaki Hime, yeah, she does live in the Misty Lake. She can't leave the lake, but because of the river funnels, she can at least go through the Genbu Ravine. So she can follow rivers if she wants, but you have to figure out how the river system works in Gensokyo completely. All I can say for sure is that the water funnels down from the Yokai Mountain, which is interesting to think about because you would assume the water is coming from Lake Suwa, but Lake Suwa wasn't up there, right? Lake Suwa didn't exist until the mountain fuckers moved in. Which means the flow of water from Yokai Mountain to Genbu Ravine into the Misty Lake was not coming from there. But I guess you could also say that the same water source is what created Lake Suwa, but I'm pretty sure it's stated that Lake Suwa was brought to Gensokyo itself. Unless that was some crazy shit that I made up. My sources, I made it the fuck up. These bounds, Agartha. Majestic and dignified map theme. Despite the game's abundance of songs, most play during specific themes and aren't actually that many general purpose tracks. So I made one more. I came up with this not long after seeing an orchestra with the rest of the staff, and I based the song on their instrumentation and orchestration style. Made sure to keep switching up the instruments in the main melody to keep it from getting too repetitive. The original song was, at the time of this game's making, from a fairly recent release. One of the best perks of composing game themes is that you can use your favorite songs in them. Neo-traditionalism of Japan. Wow. Moon Rabbits. One of the races residing on the moon. They are rabbits, as their name would suggest, but how they relate to Earth rabbits is unknown. They are entrusted with tasks such as medicine pounding, military service, or attending the lunar nobility, to whom it seems they are subordinate. Yorihime and Toyohime in particular are known for having kept Reisen and Reisen, sorry if that's confusing, as pets. They have a laid-back attitude towards their duties, and even those entrusted with serving the Lunar Defense Force typically just kick back and nom on peaches all day. That said, they all have the shrewdness you'd expect from service workers, but they're pretending to be training when Yorihime is around, so that's pretty cute. Moria Shrine. A shrine that showed up on Yokai Mountain shortly prior to the events of Mountain of Faith. Its occupants took the bold step of transporting the entire shrine, lake and all, from the outside world to Gensokyo in one go. Okay, so I didn't make that shit up. The shrine is led by the Wind Priestess, Sanai Kochiya, and enshrines two gods, Kaneko Yasuka and Suiko Moria. Two gods being enshrined together like that is unusual, but they share a complex history together. Long ago, Suiko, having brought the fearsome Mizaguchi to heel, erected a powerful kingdom. Kaneko invaded that nation, and after the battle accepted Suiko's surrender. But despite the defeat, the fear of the Mizaguchi lingered in the heart of the Moria people. As a result, the shrine was nominally dedicated to Kaneko. Any faith it would receive would go to Suiko. And so, for ages past, the two gods divided their labors, with Kaneko taking the central stage and Suiko handling practical affairs. This state of affairs continued for centuries until the mankind's scientific development progressed to the point that accumulated faith became untenable, forcing them to migrate. After emigrating to Gensokyo, it's fair to say that things have changed for them. Suiko seems to walk around outside much more openly than she used to. She and Kaneko don't coordinate quite as closely as they used to. By the way, regarding their associated animals, one can say that Kaneko symbolized by snakes and Suiko with frogs. But that's a bit of an oversimplification. Actually, considering the Mizaguchi looks like giant snakes, you think Suiko would be the snake god. But alas. After their battle, Kaneko apparently adopted the imagery of snakes to reinforce her image as the mighty victor, with Suiko getting to be the frog as the loser. Regardless, when you consider that she was able to deliberately transport such a large area to Gensokyo, you have to admit that Kaneko is the real deal. You know what the cool part about Kaneko is? Is according to this statement, Kaneko had to leave the outside world because scientific progression caused people to stop believing in gods. So then Kaneko then came to Gensokyo. And what was the first thing Kaneko did? What was the first fucking thing Kaneko did? She tried to start scientific progression in Gensokyo. What are you doing? No, it's fine. It'll work this time because I'm the one doing it. Alright. People don't believe in us anymore. Science, all that shit. Okay, anyway. Alright, now let's make nuclear power in this new world we came to. You fucking twit. Face to heart. The theme for the Komeiji Sisters conversation. I love the Komeiji Sisters so much that I injected a lot of my own ego into this track. So when this track plays during the story, it feels very special. Overall, I aim for a quiet vibe, almost befitting a visual novel. However, the stage has a gimmick where the music changes in response to the story's development. So, to say it simply, I was given free rein musically and I took full advantage. Also, isn't the original song wonderful? The pre-chorus in particular is just beautiful. Moenzuka. A location introduced in Phantasmagoria, Flower View described as a burial site for those without relatives, widely considered to be one of the most dangerous places in Gensokyo for humans and yokai alike. The majority of people buried there are outsiders who fell into Gensokyo by accident, and so over time its connection to the outside world strengthened, resulting in a corresponding weakening of the barrier. Moreover, as a site associated with death, it is an easy time connecting to the netherworld. To put it simply, it's a place where anything can happen. Because of the barrier's instability, it's possible to find rare items that drifted in, so Ryunosuke often comes to pay his respects and go scavenging. Mugenkan. A mansion on the border of the real world and the dreamscape. It's featured in one of the old games, Lotus Land Story, with Yuka as its master and Ellie as its gatekeeper. No real information about it has ever been revealed, other than that it is where Yuka used to live, along with Ellie and Kurumi. Fantasy Maiden Wars follows the same setup, seeing as all three of its residents have relocated. The building is currently uninhabited. Myoden Temple. The temple established by Byakuren and friends after her revival. Located near the human village, the temple itself was made by converting the palanquin ship into a stationary building atop land prepared by Suiko. Although the temple welcomes humans and yokai alike, it focuses on yokai, has garnered the reputation of being a yokai temple. Even so, it seems to be reasonably popular with humans, with quite a few visiting whether they hold festivals there. Subterranean Interlude. The theme for the Komeiji sisters talking in the spirit world. I initially created this track to be their conversation theme, but it was a bit too eerie for that, so we repurposed it here. Musically, it's a series of modulations between major and minor chords with the same key. It is structured around a spiritual dialogue as Satori Maiden, played on the flute, finds its way into the phrases of Hartman, played on the harp. It's also used for Dream of the Embryo, which doesn't seem to be mentioned here, but that is the case. I like this theme a lot. Mystia's food stall. Mystia, despite being a yokai, has opened a grilled lamprey stall. She started quite recently around autumn of the 120th season. Though she originally only started to put yakitori stalls out of business, according to Aya, it became a hotspot for Gensokyo purveyors of odd foods and business and seem to be doing well. They serve high-quality food and sake, with Aya even daring to bring Suika there to share a drink. Even 5 years on into the winter of the 125th season, the stall was still going strong, so Mystia is clearly doing something right. Well, that something might include giving people night blindness to hawk or lampreys as a cure, or just swamping them with her eels and loaches when she needs. Her reckless behavior is borderline fraudulent, but comparing all this to, say, Wriggle's insect protection racket, you have to admire her business acumen. Incidentally, there's a strong possibility that Tay is running the management side of the business, as mentioned above. The stall opened up during the 120th season, which just so happens to be the same year POFE occurred, and by extension, when she met Tay, even at the time, Tay was the one who suggested she start a business. Tay is another character opposed to her animal buddies getting cooked up, and when you consider her background in scam and sakas, well, regardless, when Mystia's stall appeared in the 125th season, in the manga Oriental Sacred Place, she revived the legendary Sparrow Sake for a limited time. It was, by all accounts, real Sparrow Sake with all the same effects as the legend. Check out Chapter 13 for more details. A commendable business effort, well received by all known customers. It's pretty refreshing seeing Reimu and Marissa visit Mystia and just chat, no fighting or danmaku or anything like that. Fantasy Nature. Reimu's spell card, always written as just Fantasy Nature without any prefixes. Its debut was an Imperishable Night. It also appeared in Scarlet Letter Rhapsody as well as the later fighting games. Marissa describes it as Reimu's ultimate technique, so it appears infrequently. Regardless of which work it appears in, Fantasy Nature is always treated as a big deal. An Imperishable Night is a timeout spell where you must simply survive as an invincible Reimu barrages you with high-speed danmaku. Reimu's ability to float is taken to the extreme, unbound by anyone or anything. According to Marissa, if she weren't just playing around and adding to the time limit, she'd be absolutely unbeatable. In the Grimoire of Marissa, she notes that originally it wasn't a spell card, but by giving it a name and a way of beating it, it became possible to play with it. In the original Japanese, its name is a homophone of Muso Tensei, as an homage to a similarly named but differently spelled technique from Fist of the North Star. That version was pretty similar, as a technique that made its user impervious to all harm by achieving the state of nothingness. In Scarlet Letter Rhapsody, in its expansion, Hisotensoku Fantasy Nature was further refined, making it both stylistically and mechanically more similar to Muso Tensei. Fantasy Nature's depiction in Fantasy Maiden Wars was heavily inspired by Grimoire and Marissa. The whole point of danmaku is to allow the weak a chance to defeat the strong, so what does it mean to be truly invincible technique? As far as the writing team is concerned, the Rei Mari vibes are off the charts on this one. Okay. The World Mom Knitted Together. Makai's map theme. When I condensed my idea of Makai down, this was the result. It's a song that makes you wonder, is this really where Alice is from? The chord progression differs a bit from the original, so while the atmosphere is quite different, that wonderful melody is still going strong. By the way, the staff really liked knitted as a phrase. Suited Lady Shinki's big mom energy. Yeah. Oh. Netherworld. The place where innocent souls who have received their judgment for the Yama are sent. Here they lie in wait till either they become spirits and go to heaven or re-enter the cycle of reincarnation. With no specific details about the region have been revealed, it can be presumed to be very large and reflect the changing of the seasons, though it does have seemingly living creatures like birds and insects. They are effectively just ghosts and make no noise. With the barrier of life and death originally separated the Netherworld from the land of the living, it was weakened during the spring snow incident. Nowadays, it's a well-known tourist spot for flower viewings. And that said, it's hard to say how many people among the living can actually manage the trip there. By the way, in Toho, the dead are judged by the Yama and then sent to either hell or in the netherworld or heaven, and it seems like all three are having overcrowding problems. Thankfully for the netherworld, apparently, the Yama were able to expand its territory, solving the problem. Oni. A race of yokai. They are extremely powerful and have, as described in Perfect Memento and Strict Sense, high levels of physical and magical strength, among the highest in Gensokyo. In Immaterial and Missing Powers correspondence from Shanghai Alice, it is mentioned that Oni are jolly and love to drink, feast, and compete with humans of any kind of contest. They are straightforward by nature, known for their sincerity and distaste for lying or dirty tricks. And even Akyuu notes that there are no yokai as honest as Oni. They used to reside primarily on Yokai Mountain with the Kappa and Tengu as their underlings. However, their numbers have gradually dwindled, and by the time the Great Hakurei Barrier was erected, they had nearly vanished. In Perfect Memento and Strict Sense, Akyuu writes that they went to another world whose location is unknown, which as we later discover was the underworld. It seems that not all Gensokyo's Onis emigrated to the underworld. The exact details are unclear. For more information on this subterranean world, please refer to the Underworld section in the glossary. Regardless, it is posited that the disappearance of the Oni was caused by humanity's selfishness. In the aforementioned correspondence, it is mentioned that humanity broke off their relationship, causing the Oni to abandon them. The sentiment is mirrored in Essay's character settings, which notes that Oni left the overworld voluntarily when humans began to shun them. In times past, human and Oni used to engage in competitions, and if the Oni won, they would kidnap their victims. Yeah, I fucking wonder why they didn't want to do this anymore. Immaterial Missing Powers correspondence note that Oni kidnapping people symbolized humanity's fear and was the reason for their existence. While the Oni enjoyed this relationship, it seemed that mankind did not, and employed all sorts of dirty tricks to eradicate them. While the Oni attempting to preserve their raison d'etre is understandable, humanity can't truly be blamed for attempting to quash their fears. This episode serves as a reminder of mankind's karma and the challenge we face in coexisting with others. Well, how about we fucking play for a drink instead of playing for you like taking me to your goddamn cave and cooking me in a stew? As on the side, Gensokyo had no Oni till Suika's return in Immaterially Missing Power, leading to a loss in institutional knowledge on how to deal with them. Thankfully, though, Suika and Yugi are happy to settle fights through the spell card rules, so that's unlikely to be a problem in this story. Big Mom. Get Saint back! Hokai's map theme. That's a great name, by the way. Hokai lies in Makai's depths, where even the fairies are dyed in toxins, a relentlessly dangerous place. The music is meant to convey that. For such a dangerous area, a hard battle awaits you. I was seriously captivated by this song back when I first played UFO, so I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I had a lot of fun making it. I particularly like the part in the second half that incorporates some phrases from Cosmic Mind. By the way, the kanji for Hijiri is that, which literally means saint, hence the title. I just think Get Saint Back sounds really funny, especially when you assume it's spoken in English, right? That is somebody saying, "Get the Saint back!" Oshira-sama. Oshira-sama, also written as Oshira-sama, is a household deity worshipped in the Tohoku region. It is worshipped by carving the faces of men, women, and horses into sticks of mulberry wood, and then dressing them in cloth robes. They're typically placed in the home's kamidana, miniature household altar, or tokonama, an alcove for displaying art. As previously mentioned, Oshira-sama has been worshipped around Tohoku since long ago, but was more recently popularized by author Kunio Yanagata's Tonomonogatari. There's a wide variety of beliefs and stories associated with it, and its nature as a deity is incredibly diverse. We won't be covering the details extensively here. One notable tradition is known as Oshira Asobase, or Oshira Play, in which a young girl carries Oshira-sama on her back while playing, or in Itako, blind spiritual mediums hold Oshira-sama while dancing and reciting ritual texts. From a modern perspective, Oshira-sama's appearance can seem quite eerie, bordering on the occult, and the primitive nature of its associated ceremony certainly enhances this impression. In addition, worshipping Oshira-sama comes with a few prohibitions. Oshira-sama is said to dislike eggs and meat, and offering such items can invite misfortune. Same with halting a ritual partway or even just performing it poorly. In that sense, it is viewed as a vengeful deity, deserving of reverence and fear in equal measure. But I would simply not host it in my house. As far as Toho goes, it's brought up by Suiko in his Otensoku. Despite its dark image, she references it in her victory quotes in a pretty casual way, which pretty much explains her entire character right there. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, it's an equipable item, handled with extreme caution. That's the item that increases your power based on your cost, as well as your SP, I think. Anyway, it's just one of those things. I gave it to Goo. Goo had it. To the Distant Dream World. Dreamscape Theme Part 1, The Entrance. Considering how tricky the original track is, producing this was quite the challenge. Eerie yet beautiful. It captures both the fear and the anticipation of an unknown world. I think this arrangement turned out pretty exciting. This guy's a precious arrangement of Izanagi object. While pondering what to make for this new map, I remember being well pleased with what I thought of the Hifu Club CDs. Oops. Palace of the Earth Spirits. A mansion in the underworld, also known as Chididem, built atop the ruins of Blazing Hell with a hole in the courtyard connecting to it. Its residents, the Komeiji sisters, and their pets. They have so many pets that taking care of them is left to the pets themselves. A Western-style mansion, it prominently displays extravagant stained glass windows. It's quite spacious as well. After Hell parted ways with the underworld, this mansion was built to manage what remained of Blazing Hell. It seemed likely that its overly large dimensions are a reflection of this purpose. As noted previously, the Palace of Earth Spirits is home to a large number of animals. The stage for it in Hopeless Masquerade happens to have a whole lineup of them in the background. Seems like they all share a strong bond with their master, Satori Komeiji, and are well organized. Toa doesn't have any locations with loads of mooks taking care of them, but by all accounts they're doing a great job. You know, for pets. Passing into fantasy. In a narrow sense, this refers to a property of the boundary of illusion and substance by which things pass from the outside world and against Sokyo. In a broader sense, the term can be used to describe anything passing it against Sokyo, whether by Yukari meddling with the boundary on a whim or by pure coincidence. The boundary of illusion and substance was created at Yukari's behest, with the power to take things that are vanishing from the outside world and incorporating them into Sokyo's ecosystem. It is, though, that it means that the yokai on the verge of becoming fantasy or anything else that few people still believe in can appear in Sokyo. That is what it means to pass into fantasy. Entities that passed into fantasy at a time relatively close to the present day might include vampires of the Scarlet Temple Mansion. Objects with a degree of disbelief, including parts from a rocket that went to the moon, have also been seen about Cordindo. There have also been instances of people or objects entering Sokyo through unique circumstances, including a couple pure flukes, which is still described as passing into fantasy out of simplicity. Nevertheless, it should be understood that those circumstances are distinct and separate from the aforementioned boundaries process. As a result, entering Sokyo through special means is sometimes referred to as being spirited away to differentiate. Potato. Herein lies a treatise on the relationship between Minariko and potatoes, particularly sweet potatoes. While Minariko is strongly associated with potatoes as the god of harvest, she is not linked to them exclusively. For example, her hat is decorated with grapes. And some of her spell cards, Amount of Faith, emphasize a connection to rice. However, in the same game, she mentions that freshly harvested sweet potatoes make up her perfume, cementing that connection. Later in Double Spoilers, she's referred to as the goddess who also runs a potato stand, and her spell card with baked potato right in the name. By that point, the associations have been well and truly locked in. Oh, and not to belabor the point, but while potatoes might seem simple or even unrefined as spiritual imagery goes, they are rich in taste, aroma, and appearance, and have a long tradition in folklore. So for that perspective, you can see how they encapsulate autumn so well. Here in Fantasy Maiden Wars, they appear as equipment to fill the bellies of Rainbow and friends on their adventures. They don't dry out even as the seasons change, implying they have been preserved. Well, regardless, her attacks involve a whole lot of sweet potatoes, and she really spews them out during the Super Akyuu Sisters kick. Note that all the potatoes used in her Danmaku were eaten by the staff later. Sinking Civilization. Dreamscape Theme Part 2, The Graveyard of Science. I arranged it to the mechanical 4-on-the-floor style. The original track is Phantom Factory from Changeability of Strange Dream. However, the chorus medley might sound like the version of Toa's lesser-known cousin, Seiho, specifically Doll's Phantom from Shuso Gyoku. At any rate, I got to use a lot more synthesizers than I normally do, so I'm satisfied. I hope I created the sense that anything goes in the Dreamscape. I love Factory. Very good theme. Red tea. A special blend of tea brewed by Sakuya. The most common beverage of choice for the residents of the Scarlet Temple Mansion seems to be tea, particularly forms of black tea brewed by Sakuya. Note that what is known in the West as black tea is referred to as red tea, kocha, in Japan. Sakuya's particular blend is special, to say the least, and so red tea here refers to that specifically. Whether out of a desire for novelty or some other motive, Sakuya often whips up dishes that are tasty as they are exotic. Example, bamboo flour cakes, and tea is no exception. In Silent Thunder and Blue, she once served up a purple-colored tea, calling it a rare blend. which seemed to catch Remilia's fancy. It turned out that, working under the absurd notion that it was pretty similar to human blood, she actually infused poison from Adonis ramosa, a type of flower, aka pheasant's eye. Apparently, though, her concoctions aren't for everyone. Sakuya served normal-looking lemon tea to Patchouli while she was working on the rocket, and considering she didn't complain about it, one has to assume it was just regular tea. Between her peculiar taste, bizarre sensibilities, and the unique way in which she cares for her mistress, we really do learn a lot about what makes Miss Sakuya tick. Fantasy Maiden Wars includes a few scenes involving Sakuya's tea, and it also been included as an equipable item, a delicious blend drinking to recover your SP, and Sakuya will graciously offer you refills till the next stage. Could you imagine if you went up to Sakuya with the character holding the red tea and you could refresh the item? That would actually be kind of cool. Trick Your Dream. Dreamscape Theme Part 3, World of Sweets. In retrospect, why the heck does this game have a new song for each stage? For the World of Sweets theme, I shifted gears from the last stage's mechanical sound to a more Halloween-like atmosphere set on woodwind instruments. Such a divine tone, such diversity of tones, even here in the endgame, you never know what to expect. I wouldn't call it Halloween-like, but it's definitely like, it's definitely like subtly horrifying type of like fairy tale, if that makes sense. Subtle horror fairy tale. Rod of Remorse. A staff-like rod wielded by Akyuu. She notates the crimes of the guilty down on it and beats them for each one. Moreover, it weights proportional to the weight of the sins inscribed on it. This part they used was one and done, but nowadays they make it as material that allows erasing and rewriting to allow them to be reused across multiple judgments. That said, it apparently streamlined the process heavily, so it's not clear when they'd even have the time to fit such punishments in. Incidentally, in real portrayals of the Yama, they are sometimes depicted holding a rod, but they're also just symbols of their authority, not tools for punishment. Unlike the cleansed crystal mirror, the Rod of Remorse seemed to be a Toho original. Rose Cookie. A Sanbando original snack, rose-shaped cookies baked by Satori, a staple treat at the Palace of Earth Spirit, sometimes burnt but always filled with love. Roses of Hope. A Sanbando original concept, roses planted by the Komeiji sisters after moving from the surface to the underworld, symbolizing their hope for their new lives. Though once neglected, they now stand quiet, humble, and resolute. A place where the seasons converge. The Yuka-chan stage theme. I think Kobo mentioned this also, but according to Sanban, Yukarin does not equal Yuka-chan, so apparently this stage theme belongs to Yuka-chan. What did he mean by this? Kobo and I often exchange glances and scratched our heads over it, but hey, I do enjoy my projects drenched in creative sauce like that. The song has a slightly artistic vibe, aiming to portray her extravagance and grandeur. I hope all you Yuka-chan fans will be satisfied with her. In all seriousness, all of Kenny and Mura's efforts on the background and flashy combat animations combine the event of the stage itself make for a spectacular climax. Steel yourself for the challenge and enjoy. Rokanken. The name of one of Yomu's swords. What about the other one? For reference, the other blade, Hakudo-ken, will also be detailed here. For reference, Rokanken is the longer sword, while Hakudo-ken is the shorter one. Rokanken is a renowned blade forged by yokai smiths. Its length makes it difficult to wield, but beyond that it behaves like you'd expect a sword. For reasons explained later, Yomu is forbidden from wielding Hakudo-ken carelessly, so she generally uses Rokanken by itself. Most sources state that Rokanken can cleave through 10 ghosts in one swing. A simple enough explanation, though it's hard to judge just how powerful that makes it. Regardless, it's undeniably sharp, with Yomu's famous line, "The things I cannot cut are close to none," referencing yokai Rokanken's sharpness. She also mentions the sword forged by yokai. Come on now. Come on now. Meanwhile, Hakudo-ken has the ability to sever the indecision of anyone it cuts, allowing ghosts to pass on in an instant. Yomu herself doesn't fully understand this ability. In Phantasmagoria Flower View, she went around slicing ghosts willy-nilly, causing Komachi and Akyuu to become furious with her. After that, Yuyiko forbade her from slicing any of Gensokyo's ghosts with it. It's hard to know how it would affect anyone other than a ghost. At the very least, we know that it's terrible at cutting things. Is it? Regardless, the Hakudo-ken is an ancestral heirloom of the Konbaku family, and it's said that while only ones who can wield it. As to why only their family can use it or what would happen if someone else tried, we can only speculate. Her stupid little sword cuts ghosts and causes them to... Rockstar Energy, Sol your channel. Is that so? We really like your unique storytelling style. Do you? I work with a small team collaborating with Rockstar Energy. At the moment, we're exploring creators with genuine content that connects well with their viewers. Just wanted to get in touch and see if you want to be able to quick informal chat about a possible idea we've been thinking about. No pressure or formal proposal, simply an informal chat to see if it's something we could explore together. If you're open to it, you can simply respond here. We can continue the conversation. Time works for you. Thanks for your time. Best of luck with your channel. Best Rockstar Energy. Whoa. 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 Me? Rockstar Energy? What a brand deal, boys. What a brand deal. I'm currently waiting for Netflix to DMCA my channel. And in about 6 days, Disney's gonna do the same. 2 strikes instantly, and then I'll get my 3rd, and I will be removed. There's revealed an oracle that the swords were haunted, and she can only use it because she's too dumb to get taken over. Wait, what? Where did that information come from? Was that in one of the fortunes? That's funny. That's funny. That's like Akyuu. Did y'all forget? Well, yeah. I definitely forgot. I don't remember that at all. The final stage theme. We've sure come a long way, haven't we? Deciding what song to use for the final chapter was a real challenge. After a lot of discussion, we settled on using Kids Festival for this momentous occasion. Kids Festival is the personal theme of Zun, the god of fantasy who birthed the Touhou project. So the song holds a special significance to many Touhou fans. Considering that warding off bad dreams is one of this game's themes, we felt it was a perfect song to use for the final battle. At long last, our journey comes to a close. For playing up to this point, thank you so much. Now go forth with all your fantasies on the line. Ruins of Blazing Hell. Place where Blazing Hell used to be. Since Hell itself is relocated, the location lost its purpose. Even after the relocation, all the vengeful spirits and such remain, so the palace where spirits was constructed to manage them. At present, Utsu, under orders from Satori, handles adjusting the heat, either opening the skylight in the courtyard to vent excess heat, or tossing in corpses or in drags when the fires wane. Going by the account as his character settings, they're making sure the fires don't become too weak, implying it might have some role beyond its former association. Stage 6 of Sundering Animism is set here, having regained its former firepower alongside Utsu wielding the power of Yatagarasu. Rainbow complains that I can't stay in a place like this, my lungs are going to burn up, illustrating just how hot the ruins may be. As for Yomu, she is not consumed by the sword's magic and stays sane. I feel her talent lies in that area. Perhaps it is because she is not thinking about anything. You know who else isn't thinking about anything? Squishy. Did you know? Squishy doesn't think about anything. According to Byakuran, that is the closest form of enlightenment you can get. So if that's true, then that means that Yomu could be a Buddhist. Actually, Byakuran and Yomu have never interacted in any capacity, have they? I wonder about that. Kind of interesting to think about. Saigyo Ayakashi, a yokai cherry tree in the garden of Hakugokuro. One more tidbit on that is that in Symposium of Post-Mysticism, specifically when they're talking about Yatagarasu and why they chose Akyuu, Kaneko straight up says the reason why is because in order to house a god like that, you pretty much need, nothing going on upstairs. So Akyuu was chosen because she could fit, her brain could fit all that Yatagarasu nonsense because there was simply nothing going on upstairs at all. Her brain was so empty, there was so much available real estate. So much available real estate, she could handle it. It was once an ordinary, beautiful cherry tree, but it eventually developed a mystical allure. Many people have since died underneath it, causing it to become a yokai. In present times, the Saigyo Ayakashi has been sealed and does not bloom in spring. The seal was put in place using a certain girl's corpse, and in return for binding her soul, the demonic tree becomes able to bear flowers. Said girl was once Yuyiko, and this is why she cannot pass on despite having no unfinished business or lingering attachments. Unfortunately, Iyuko herself has completely forgotten this fact, and out of curiosity attempted to break the seal on the Saigyo Akashi in order to revive the girl. This is the basis of the Spring Snow incident depicted in Toho 7 Perfect Cherry Blossom. The two people who are said to have clear knowledge of Iyuko and the Saigyo Akashi's relationship are Yukari Yakumo and Yoki Konpaku. PCB's character setting notes that Yukari is aware of the link and that she considers the Saigyo Akashi to be dangerous. Apparently, Yoki had at some point intended to give Yomu all the details. However, not grasping the situation, Yomu instead assisted Iyuko in the tree's revival, implying some kind of breakdown in communications there. Regardless, it seems Yoki only intended to tell Yomu, and Yukari has no intention of telling anyone. It may be well that Iyuko herself will never find out the truth. Which is really strange, because all this information is in the Gensokyo Chronicle. Like, that shit gets... Like, this is supposed to be information only known by a very select few. But then, pretty much all of this information is in Akyuu's book on the subject. Now, how much of it is exactly the same, I couldn't tell you. I would need to look over it again. But the fact remains that Akyuu does write about this fucking tree. And does include information that supposedly is only known by a select handful. Sanbando, a shop in the human village. The year marks the 8th. They've been selling disc-shaped toys. Seem to be playing with a special device that aren't common in the human village. Preparing for... Oh, wait. The Fantasy Maiden Wars Dreams. The theme for the final phase of the battle with Makoto Muratari. It was for precisely this moment that we used the same title theme for 4 straight chapters. We used the exact same sound source when we first made that intro so many years ago. Finally achieving our long-held dream. The opening theme plays during the final episode. A cliche to be sure, but a damn good one, and there's no way you can lose now! Scarlet Devil Mansion. A Western-style mansion sitting near Misty Lake. Its lord is Remilia Scarlet, who relocated the building from the outside world to Gensokyo. On its exterior, it is primarily painted in red, and its few windows. Meanwhile, between Sakuri's ability to alter how large the rooms are, and even greater lack of windows, viewing its interior leaves one very different impression. Despite its importance to the setting, it's not clear who actually named the building. While a few precise details are given about the exterior, thanks to mailing mentioning it took about 30 minutes to walk around the mansion in Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red, it is possible to estimate its size. Didn't they also say it takes about 30 minutes to walk around the Misty Lake? Doesn't that mean... Wouldn't that mean that the Misty Lake and the Scarlet Devil Mansion are the exact same width? How does that work? She isn't clear on her exact means or route, but let's assume she toured the grounds of the property on foot. Taking the Scarlet Devil Mansion's shape as a perfect square, we can place it roughly at 390,000 square meters, or 39 hectares. Incredibly large area to be sure, but when accounting for the garden and such, not out of the ordinary for European palatial gardens. Isn't that just even more confusing when you think about how the original location of the Scarlet Devil Mansion was on an island on the Misty Lake? How can you have a mansion the same size as a lake on an island within the lake itself? Please explain. Please explain now. Explain. 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 None of it makes any fucking sense! Incidentally, EOS's backstory notes that the mansion sits atop an island in the middle of Misty Lake. However, considering the lake's estimated parameter is 5 kilometers, see Misty Lake for more details. We deduce that the island's perimeter cannot be less than 2.5 kilometers. Placing these two factors side by side, we must conclude that the Misty Lake is actually shaped like a donut. This is frankly ridiculous, and we advise not dwelling on it. While Toho rarely details most characters' daily lives, it's worth noting that Patchouli doesn't sleep. Remilia is energetic at all times of day, and Sakuya typically, not always, accompanies Remilia, and Mei-Ling stands guard by her lonesome. Their sleep schedules must be a real pain to coordinate. Scarlet Mist Incident. The incident in which all against Sokyo was covered in a red-tinted mist. The tale of Rainbow Marissa solving this incident was covered in Toho 6 embodiment of Scarlet Devil. The time between the mist's appearance and its dissolution was roughly half a month. The Scarlet Mist was harmful to the human body, and according to Perfect Mental Sixth Sense, the residents of the human village were unable to leave their homes for several days. As mentioned above, the incident lasted half a month, so one can presume the mist spread over the course of a week, with our heroes springing into action after people stopped being able to go outside safely. Remilia Scarlet was the incident's mastermind, and the mist is her personal handiwork. Her motivation was little more than just being able to cause trouble even during the day. Really, nothing sums up her personality better than that. In the end, it's not clear whether or not she was actually able to go outside. At any rate, it seems that this was the first incident in which the spell card rules were employed, and it was the catalyst for their later popularity. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, as the name might suggest, this incident became the core of Scarlet. More or less follows the original game's plot, albeit for a certain somebody collaborating with Remilia. Scarletite. Also known as Hihirokane, or Scarlet Gold. It's not an invention of Toho's, but rather a real-world alloy that was used in ancient Japan. That said, it's generally treated as a mythological metal akin to orichalcum. As far as Toho is concerned, it first appeared in Curiosity of Lotus Asia as the metal incorporated in Marissa's Mini Hakuto. When the original Mini Hakuto had rusted over, Marissa requested Ryunosuke to remake her whole reactor part out of Scarletite. Ryunosuke just had a small amount of Scarletite stored up and decided to use it for exchange for some junk Marissa had been collecting. It's mentioned in the story that the material basically never changes under any circumstances, making it the perfect material for magic items. Though it's unclear what effects, if any, that had on the Mini Hakuto's firepower. Scarletite's unchanging nature would make it an item out of a permanently as good as new, so in that sense it's perfect for making tools. Akyuu Revision. G-Free. Thank you for playing all the way up to this point. This is the theme we prepared for the Dream Again stage. I'm so happy that I got arranged my beloved G-Free that I made it as speedy and energetic as possible. Think of it as a festival in celebration of you beating the game. By the way, the impossible to read song title is pronounced Akyuu Vision. Thank you for seeing a vision of an exhibition rematch in a dream. Please enjoy this odd EX stage that is so reminiscent of the main story to your heart's content. Secret Base. A location unique to Fantasy Maiden Wars refers to an ice island floating in the Misty Lake. It was created by Chirno to serve as her and Daiyose's secret base and originally had a little igloo on the top to be their house. It would normally melt quickly during the summer, but regular maintenance keeps it intact. Chirno keeps a collection of frozen frogs and preserved fruits there, among other odds and ends. She keeps a cushion of leaves out for Daiyose's sake, but she can't do much about how cold it is. Regardless, Daiose appreciates the sentiment and keeps any complaints she might have to herself. It's unclear that the two get up to indoors, most likely chatting about their favorite hidden playgrounds, comparing hidden treasures they found, or exchanging info, what they consider to be top secret info. They're definitely not playing guessing games about who each other likes or anything like that. After all, why would they need to guess? Even every once in a while, some cruel, heartless monsters wander by and turn part of the island into shaved ice. Shanghai. The name of one of Alice's dolls first appeared in Perfect Cherry Blossom as the spell card Magically Luminous Shanghai Dolls. At the time, she had several other titles using the blank dolls format, so it's unclear if it was intended as the name of the spell card or the name of the doll. However, the Shanghai doll appeared once more in Perishable Night as Alice's familiar, one of that game's special mechanics, cementing it as a symbol of Alice's dolls. That said, we still don't know much about it, as Alice herself rarely discusses her dolls in detail. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, the Shanghai doll appears once more as one of Alice's favorites. It makes its appearance in conversation, nodding along, but it's no mere plaything. In truth, it's Alice's secret weapon. Preparing for the games to come. The song that nowadays plays in library mode. I figured it was the type of song you'd be listening to for a long time, so I tried to keep the rhythm relatively tame so it wouldn't be tiresome to listen to. In the latter half, there's a faint hint of the melody from the Centennial Festival from Magical Girls. This game takes a lot of planning, but I think fretting over formations and equipment is one of the best parts of strategy games. Sometimes you gotta take a breather and get ready for the next exciting stage. So this is the actual library's theme. Shikigami. Within Toho, Shikigami refers to either a spell that possesses its target to turn them into the user's familiar, or one of said familiars. Within this game, Chen and Ron are clear examples of the latter. To put it simply, a Shikigami is a program you load into someone to make them stronger. Though it might seem like a simple investiture of power, it differs greatly from typical master-servant relationships established by mutual contract. Firstly, a Shikigami is essentially a pattern specialized in carrying out the commands of its user. When carrying out its master's commands, it becomes far more powerful than it would be otherwise, while straying from its orders can hamper its capabilities. Secondly, the ability to create these patterns requires not just sorcerer's ability, but also a deep knowledge of mathematics. Our two practitioners of note in this work are Yukari and Ron, both of whom are very good with numbers. Thirdly, though a Shikigami does supersede its target, it can't actually physically alter them, so it requires a sustainable host. In that regard, the whole process is sometimes compared to computers, where the user is installing software on their PC. Finally, PCB's character settings note a weakness of theirs where the pattern will detach when its host is exposed to water. While this is mentioned as a weakness for Shikigami as a whole, it's hard to imagine being true for Ron. Preparing for the games of the new age. A new intermission theme with a new atmosphere. After putting all parts of this game together into one large package, we received requests to the effect that it'd be nice to have something new to listen to. Hence the song's creation. Well, it's basically just an arrangement of the old intermission theme, but this one's pretty up-tempo. So for Fantasy Maiden Wars, where you often spend a lot of time in the menus, maybe it'll be a bit tiring to listen to. Prepare yourself well and get ready for a new battle. You know what this game would have really benefited from? a jukebox in the preparation screen. Because like it just said in the game, you spend a lot of time prepping for the next map. And the theme is fine, but that's a lot of chapters you gotta listen to this to. At some point, I want to listen to something else. So having an actual built-in jukebox for your preparation screen is probably a really good idea for these tactic-type games. Just to, you know, spice it up. You should still have a theme dedicated to it, but you should kind of have it like for the first couple chapters, then just have like you unlock jukebox. Now you can use other themes you've heard throughout the game while you do your preparations, and it's like cool. With Shinigami, within the world of Touhou, Shinigami are one of the primary residents of Hell. Despite how their title makes them sound, they are essentially just Hell's public servants, working for the Ministry of Right and Wrong and are otherwise unconnected to their mythological or folkloric depictions. Perfect Mental Sixth Sense compares them to yokai, and Suiko even taunts one directly, saying Shinigami aren't gods. The jobs assigned to Shinigami include managing human lifespans, hell reception, ferryman for the Sanza River, court stenographer, and tour guide. It seems each one is assigned jobs based on their individual aptitudes. As of the summer of 2016, Komachi is the only one to appear in Touhou, and she works as a boatwoman, guiding souls across the Sanza River. Apparently, it's not a very popular job on account of the physical labor involved. On top of that, it seems her wage is tied directly to the toll paid with each soul as it crosses. This could imply that Komachi is living a pretty frugal lifestyle. Shinigami are well known for brandishing a large scythe, but in truth, these tools serve no practical purpose and are just for show. It's unclear if Shinigami work in internal positions, like clerks, also carry one. Okay. Blessed Brushing. A song created for the Talk to Miko feature, unique to Dream Mode. I went for a laid-back bossa nova groove, somewhere halfway between nostalgic reminiscing and post-work review. I hope you enjoy conversing with Miko in this strange, not the intermission space. The song's title came about when I was looking up sheep stuff for inspiration. Came across a video of a lamb looking very comfy while being gently brushed. Thus, blessings met brushing to form the title. Come to think of it, the sheep that Miko brushed are all what? That's the part I'm looking the most forward to whenever I get around to doing New Game Plus. It's gonna be a while before we touch that, but the intermissions with Miko and Makuta, I think that'll be a really cool thing. But obviously, I don't want to replay the whole fucking game again right away after just beating it, because I was playing this game for 4 months, and I'm not playing the whole thing over again. Give it some time. Songstress, a special ability unique to Fantasy Maiden Wars that improves the effects of Mystia's songs. When you think about singers, you tend to picture characters who sing their hearts out for the sake of others. By comparison, Mystia seems to mostly sing for her own sake, so you might not figure her much of an idol. However, in Mystia's route in POFE, Yuka tells her that the song you're singing comes not from within you, but from these ghostly whispers. So while she may appear self-indulgent, she's actually giving voice and song to her environment. In the same game, Akyuu even tells her songs can at times quell spirits, or at times stimulate them, further emphasizing the importance of song. The influence of music on spirits is further explored in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red in relation to the Prism Rivers. What separates them is that while the Prism Rivers each specialize in their own sound and emotions, Mystia can soothe and invigorate in equal measure. That might just be what makes singing so special. Reading the atmosphere and picking just the right song to amplify whatever mood you need, that is what makes Mystia a songstress. As an aside, Akyuu also mentioned a hidden danger to Mystia's songs. You stir up a little too much chaos, she said. Mystia doesn't really get to pick what emotions she stimulates, and she basically never stops singing. In that regard, she's a lot more chaotic than the Prism Rivers, who are far more precise in using their abilities. God damn it, you're a loose cannon, you're off the case. Boundary of regular and irregular days. A completely ordinary conversation theme. Just like the intermission music, I tried to keep the flavor simple so you wouldn't get tired of it. It's a truly versatile song, wouldn't you say? I honestly love the everyday quality the songs from the retrospective 53 minutes have. With its subtle presence, I hope you can focus on and enjoy the scenario team's beautiful backgrounds and engrossing writing. The song is like the embodiment of ordinary, but upon review, it's impressively versatile. I wish I could whip up songs like this more quickly in the future. Theme of Lily Smile. Sorcerer's Sutra Scroll. A shining, scrollish object that Byakuren wields. She has it on her person since undefined fantastic object, though its name and function weren't revealed until later. At the time, people were calling it the Air Scroll, based on a spell card she has in UFO. In fact, some Japanese fans still call it that to this day, though it's less common globally. Is it? Is it less common globally, chat? I think a lot of people call this thing the Air Scroll. At the very least, I don't think I've ever seen anybody call it the fucking Sorcerer's Sutra Scroll. That doesn't roll off the tongue. I've known it as the Air Scroll for a long time. I never really thought about how I pronounce it or how I like refer to it, but I'm pretty sure I only use the term Air Scroll. Scroll was properly detailed in Symposium, but post-mysticism would take too long to explain everything, so the main points are that it contained all the sutras she needed to use her abilities, and that she made it while sealed away out of an abundance of free time. It possesses its own will, refuses to be used by others, and has an auto-chant mode where it will hover above Byakuren's head and chant spells for her. Seeing as Byakuren is otherwise not much stronger than the average human being, it's fair to say that Sorcerer's Sutra Scroll exists to cover all her weaknesses, with clear thought paid to enhancing her martial arts. What's the strategy? A normal conversation theme. I remember being impressed by Zun's range when I first heard the original. I really enjoy its melancholic yet somehow relaxing atmosphere. It's a song you'll be hearing a lot in game, so it's a pretty important track. Please enjoy it alongside the scenario team's writing. Spell card rules. A method of dueling in Spell and Gensokyo, also referred to as a declared duel system. Though it rarely comes up in English, the contestants develop their techniques and name in advance, and they compete based on their beauty. The match is decided when one side runs out of stamina or when all their techniques have been defeated. Thanks to being separated from the outside world by the Great Hakurei Barrier, Gensokyo rarely has to worry about external threats. However, this isolation led to a new problem. If yokai attack humans indiscriminately, then humanity would go extinct, which would lead to the extinction of yokai in turn. On the flip side, if yokai were forbidden from attacking humans altogether, they'd lose their whole reason for existing. The solution then was to resolve their conflicts according to certain rules. To preserve the relationship between yokai and humanity without jeopardizing anyone's lives, the spell card rules were born. Spell card rules were first utilized during the Scarlet Mist incident in Toa 6, and have become a mainstay since then. While other dueling styles have been proposed, the spell card rules have proven so popular that no alternatives were ever widely adopted. Perfect Memento in strict sense notes that the rules were decided on by the Shrine Maiden, though it also suggests a yokai might have been their inventor. Perhaps this was the method settled on after talks between Reimu and various yokai. Eschewing bloodshed for a more playful and sports-like style of combat, the spell card rules are perhaps the most defining feature of the Touhou project. Naturally, Fantasy Made It Worse follows this setup closely, though its implementation in-game can get a little fuzzy. For convenience sake, any usage of the spell card system by in-game enemies is referred to as a spell card. Check out my spell card while I hurl you into the sun. Yeah! Secret mission. A song that plays mainly during gag scenes. According to Sanban, the atmosphere completely changes whenever this plays, earning his stamp of approval. I took the original conversation theme from Scarlet Rhapsody and jazzed it up a bit. Second half weaves in a medley for our 4 goofballs themes. Honestly, when I first made this, I had no idea it'd get so much use. Yeah, it's got the leitmotif of SWR's theme. You can hear it in there because it's in that game. Spring snow incident. An incident which spring did not come against Sokyo. Snow continued falling even past April into May and showed no signs of stopping. The tale of Reimu, Marissa, and Sakuya solving this incident was covered in Toa 7 Perfect Cherry Blossom. According to PCB's backstory, while Gensokyo often endures heavy snowfall, its residents barely stockpiled more food and fuel than they needed to last a single winter. For them, a prolonged winter posed a serious threat. The incident's mastermind was Yuko Saigoji. Curious about the corpse resting peacefully beneath the Saigo Akashi, she sought to make the tree bloom. To that end, she stole the essence of Gensokyo's spring, hoarding it all in the netherworld. The truth of this incident is not well known in Gensokyo. As Akyuu notes in Perfect Mental Strict Sense, the details of this incident are not widely known. This differs from the Scarlet Mist incident, whose details and even mastermind are public knowledge. On the other hand, the Eternal Night incident isn't even the game's true incident, so may as well be a lack of public knowledge as the norm. By the way, the term spring snow refers to any snowfall during the spring season, but here the season itself literally did not arrive. The name comes from the residents of Gensokyo who, as noted above, didn't know the full details. Regardless, the term does a good job juxtaposing PCB's dueling storms as snow and cherry blossoms. By the way, apparently I'm getting snow this Sunday, so I'm getting spring snow. Super Aki Sisters Kick. The Akyuu's ultimate technique, Minamiko and Shiza bound in the air, join hands, release a flying kick. Two sister goddesses embodying the duality of Autumn join forces to display Autumn's true power, or so goes the theory anyway. From the name of the animation to all the anime references to the special animation when it misses, you can tell the Mystic development team really put their all into designing it. Assault, a crisis draws near. The theme for emergency situations. Much like the enemy reinforcements theme, I created the song during the early days of development, so it's unusual in using a track from subterranean animism. It's not hard to draw a line for an emergency to the power of nuclear fusion, solar sect, and mystic wisdom, so I think it all fits. Surprise Danmaku Best of 3. A private Danmaku battle held in the human village. Beyond just being a battle of Danmaku, it was a competition to see who could surprise the hardest. A unique battle that emphasized Danmaku's more playful side. So considering the only way to check if a team was surprised or not was for them to admit it, the whole thing is pretty slapdash. Not unlike a game between children, really. Is a transparent enemy our ally? The theme that plays when unknown enemies conspire with one another. I extracted all the suspicious elements from the original of this arrangement. Mary the Magician is a really, really good track. It's also one of the most not Toho tracks in the entire series, but I think it's very good, so I give it a pass. Usually such characters' mugshots are obscure, but upon closer inspection you can still read their carefully crafted expressions. As mentioned previously, I only use the suspicious parts, which unfortunately means I didn't get to use my favorite part, the chorus. I regret it now, but I have only myself to blame. I really do think that Maribel has a very, very good theme, but it is also a very different theme from like usual Toho, that it sticks out in a weird way. But that really adds to it. I think that adds to Mary as a character being in like such an anomaly. Suzerain, a herbaceous perennial plant of the family Asparagaceae and subfamily Nolindiaceae, also known in English as a lily of the valley, a popular flower on account of its distinct appearance, but highly poisoned if it consumed. The Hill of the Nameless has been host to many suzerains since ancient times, so they're no stranger to Gensokyo. As Toho goes, they are strongly associated with medicine melancholy, a yokai born from their toxins. Her catchphrase, Komparo Komparo, is likely a reference to the toxin compounds in the flower, such as Kombaloside. Do you think she has any idea what that is? Bizarre Smile. The unsettling enemy conversation theme. The bass tone goes up and down by a semitone gives it an unsettling vibe. A classic technique for making things sound eerie. Sword of Hisup. A tool from heaven with the ability to discern one's temperament. It can only be wielded by celestials and appears as a flame shaped like a blade. It is able to manipulate temperament, with Scarlet Letter Rapsi's incident having been caused by its power. By interfering with the temperaments against Soki's residents, its wielder was able to alter the weather, truly the work of heaven. Even when used as just a sword, it has the ability to manifest one's temperament as mist and take on the characteristics of that temperament's weakness. In other words, it always strikes your weakness. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Tenchi got it right from the get-go. In the lead up to entering the Dreamscape, Tenchi was able to draw both upon her status as a Celestial and her bonds with everyone to call forth even greater power from the Sword of Hiso. Your standard character development into new technique setup. The intent was not to portray Tenchi was superior to other Celestials, but rather to emphasize her personal growth. Dark Clouds. A tense conversation theme. I arranged it to bring the original's quiet parts down into a conversation theme. Starting a piano piece on a heavy note makes it sound real serious. Pretty effective, right? On that note, the title for tracks like this tend to be pretty on the nose, huh? Temple Schoolhouse, Taro Koya. An educational facility established by Kane in the human village. Kane teaches history to any children in attendance. She makes frequent use of the Hida family collections for her lesson. Kane's teaching style is no nonsense and long-winded, so her lessons are a bit boring for most kids. The Inaba manga depicts her as an incompetent teacher, albeit mostly as a gag. In perfect memento in strict sense, Akyuu notes that she already knows everything that Akyuu teaches, naturally, considering all the textbooks are hers, and that it might be fun to try teaching herself. One has to wonder how Kane will react when she reads the Gensokyo Chronicle. Incidentally, the school's establishment is covered in the 117th season's Boom Boom Maru. In the article, Kane recounts her reasons for opening the school, and in a follow-up interview, date unknown, she mentions that few students have enrolled. The Gensokyo Chronicle, compiled in the 121st season, 121th. It's a good number. See, I read that the way you're supposed to read that, and I had to double back. 121th season has Kane firmly established as a teacher, implying it took a couple years for the school to pick up steam. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, the school exists to teach the human village children as per perfect mental strict sense. The Scarlet Arc is set in the 118th season, so the school ought to be pretty new, but it's easy enough to just slide its creation back a couple years. We're on song 201. The dream is here. A tender conversation. In this case, while the dream may be here, it does beg the question, whose dream is it? It might be interesting to consider the dream of Hiroshige, who dreamt of heading to the land of bliss in his deathbed poem. Tengu, a species of yokai. They reside primarily on Yokai Mountain with their established culture. There are a variety of races of Tengu among them, including Tenma, the leader of the Tengu, with powers said to rival the gods. Dai Tengu, the managers who have hangout orders at the lower ranks. Crow Tengu, swift wings who hold positions in the press corps. Long-nosed Tengu, rarely seen clerical workers. White Wolf Tengu, in charge of mountain security. Yamabushi Tengu, specializing in printing. Among others, no doubt. While each is a force on their own, they possess a strong sense of camaraderie and are highly organized as a civilization. Plus, they got the Kappa around for the technological edge. For this reason, it is extremely dangerous to wander into Yokai Mountain. Thanks to their power and mysterious nature, they are sometimes revered as gods in the human village. That said, there's still no match on the mountain previous ruler, the Oni, and Suika has often described them as sneaky and all talk. Though it's worth noting, she said that to Aya, who she has a decent relationship with, and she's pretty critical in general, so don't read too far into it. Ain't no way. Termination in the chest. A courageous conversation theme. By setting the chord progression to that da 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 rhythm, I think I managed to evoke a feeling of bravery. In game, it appears during key moments, like right before a battle with a big boss. It's a song, get the job done. 3-stage cylinder. Brought up by Patchouli and Silent Thunder in Blue as a necessary component for a rocket. Specifically, it is a 3-stage cylindrical magical power which is required. While reviewing literature from the outside world, Patchouli discovered the outside world rocket are composed of 3 stages. While mimicking this design might seem unnecessary, from a magical perspective, replicating the form of something is strongly correlated with replicating its efficacy. As a result, Patchouli's rocket design consisted of 3 stages, each powered by one of the 3 Sumeyoshi gods, real world form, fantasy world function. The result was so good that even Eren called it almost perfect. The first half of Silent Thunder in Blue is a lighthearted story about the rocket's creation, the slapstick around its launch, and Remilia and company's journey to the moon. Simple, but entertaining. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Patchouli's rocket design is completely abandoned in favor of the Paliquid ship. In Silent Thunder in Blue, Yomu brings up something Yuko told her, that rockets are just ships that sail through space, which leads to Reimu's realization about the Sumeyoshi. So looking at all that, we figured, hey, they already got a literal flying boat, and just rolled with it. What? Faint Whisperings. A PCB, well really, a Yuko exclusive conversation theme. Hope it's a good match for the purplish and wisteria colors of the Netherworld. That's a piece of trivia. The Mystic chapter was first released in May 2012. 10 Desires came out in August 2011, making this a very recent song choice at the time. This is a great theme, though. Title. A type of sobriquet. A short description reflecting an aspect of a person's character, often used with a nuance of respect or awe. As opposed to a nickname, these tend to be used when describing someone in the third person. Though often seen in anime and manga, you rarely encounter them in real life. Real life examples might include the Sun King or the Wizard of Menlo Park. In Toho, most characters, with one notable exception, have a title. Often several of them. Examples include Reimu, the Shrine Maiden of Paradise, or Remilia, the eternally young Scarlet Moon. In addition to symbolizing the character, they're cool enough that you can often remember the big ones. That said, they never come up in conversation, so some of them would make for difficult trivia questions. It's unclear how cognizant the characters themselves are of these titles, but several of them do appear in universe in the Gensokyo Chronicle, so they probably care at least a little. They call Yomu half-baked. Many times. Those unforgettable days of eternity. An Akyuu-related conversation theme. Back in the Mystic chapter, I created a song called Faint Whisperings to go along with the PCP cast, so I thought I'd do the same for the Eternity chapter. It's a song for somber scenes, but having dedicated tracks for these moments helped make them feel special. I hope it symbolizes the members of Akyuu well. As for the arrangement itself, it helps that the original's mood was already like this. Trumpy. Equipment installed in the Pelican Ship's Lounge, an abbreviation of Tri-Optimized Magician Protection Environment. Coded combination Patchley's magic, Kappa technology, and the Pelican Ship's own Buddhist power in order to protect the prayer hall of the ship's core. Its defensive power is absolute, and no Danmaku could ever pierce it. Thanks to it, Rainbow Company can train inside as much as they want. Tsukumogami. Generally refers to tools over a long period of time have transformed into yokai. The belief that tools and other objects have spirits within them dates back to ancient times and is derived from the concept of Tsukumo, literally the 99, referring to very long periods of time. As Toho goes, the idea is roughly the same. Going by Akyuu's Gensokyo Chronicles, Tsukumogami are likely the most familiar of all yokai to Gensokyo's residents. Indeed, there are quite a few examples of Tsukumogami across the series. Forbidden Scrollery features a wide variety of them pretty frequently, in fact. In theory, almost any object has the potential to become a Tsukumogami, so the people of Gensokyo have to handle them with care. Flan Help OP1496. Operation Flan Help theme. This actually is composed of 4 different tracks, but the one you're hearing right now is only the 3rd, so please enjoy the others during the stage itself. The part that plays during the movie scene was a candidate for the Scarlet Chapter's final stage theme. While discussing whether to use this or the medley, we decided that the theme of salvation came through too strongly, so we decided to save it for when Vermillion and Flan finally talked to each other. Being able to actually use it for that salvation scene pleased me greatly. Operation Flan Help. Ultimate Wriggle Kick. A Sanbando original technique, though in truth it is derived from Wriggle's behavior in Imperishable Night. Stage 1, Wriggle appears from the top of the screen very suddenly, so if the player is hanging around top, they're likely to get smacked and lose a life. A classic noob trap, countless people recount being hit by the Wriggle Kick, giving rise to the legend. Characters flying in from off-screen is nothing new, but for a variety of reasons, Wriggle seemed to smack more players than anyone else, so the meme stuck with her. Personally, I would simply not get hit. For what it's worth, it's also taking some cues from a certain other kick from a certain other game. Oh, and the cool brushstrokes in the animation were done by the staff's resident Wriggle superfan. From the brushstrokes to the ink, he sure did put everything he had into it. We hope you appreciate the level of care that went into its creation. Powerful Headbutt delivered by Kane in her Hakutaku state. For more information on headbutts in general, please refer to their entry. Peppermint 60 notes that headbutt plus horn equal pain, but still, how did it come to this? Though I suppose it was pretty odd even back in the Scarlet arc. Nowadays, she bears their horns with savage power, cleaving her way straight through the earth, and taking the notion of a headbutt to all new depths. Setting headbutts aside for a second, Kane is one of those characters who come up with animations to match her spell card names was a real struggle. Returning Bridge Ichijo in particular was one of the animation team really agonized over. There was one idea to have her dig her horns into the ground while dragging the enemy to and fro, but that seemed less Returning Bridge and more citywide tour. God, this theme. This is one of those themes that, like, once you hear it in the game and you constantly associate it with that part in the game, it invokes emotion. Heartfelt. It's a somber Palace of the Earth Spirits theme. As I grow more accustomed to creating music, I've gotten better at creating the atmosphere that I want, but I still sometimes struggle with the question, what kind of atmosphere suits this scene in the first place? I made this to express sad times at the Palace of Earth Spirits, but I'm still not sure if it should have been even more depressing, or if this level was just right. While I'm satisfied with the composition itself. The original chord progression was pretty complicated, but I think I was able to break it down in my own style. The song title is a pun on heartfelt, reflecting a missing heart. Underworld. Also known as the Underground World. As the name implies, it is located deep below the surface. Subterranean animism is set there, all the way from stage 1 to stage 6. While its exact size and scope is not laid out, as far as its appearance in-game is concerned, it was an original location of Hell. One noteworthy location is the old capital, left abandoned after Hell underwent corporate streamlining. Here, the self-exiled Oni have settled down, establishing a colossal underground city alongside the yokai who don't fit in on the surface. It said in Symposium of Post-Mysticism that even after Gensoki was cut off from the outside world, and rules and standards were established by the surface yokai, the underground yokai chose not to abide. As a result, a treaty of mutual non-interference was established between both sides. This agreement serves as background for S.A.'s plot. No surface yokai could enter the underworld, so Rainbow and Marissa are sent in their place, receiving support comms from their partners above ground. The settings and timeline for the original story are complex, and this author can't claim to have a full grasp on the particulars. Fantasy Maiden Wars more or less follows the same idea, though its portrayal was greatly influenced by imaginations of Sanbando's staff. And then Will. The Eternity Chapter's final stage theme, played on piano. It's been heavily modified, but that's me actually playing it. So this is the theme that leads into, this is the part that leads into the other Utsuo theme. Vampire. Vampire. A race of yokai. Since EOSD's release, only 2, the Scarlet Sisters, have been confirmed to exist. They have many weaknesses, including the sun, but are more than capable of making up for it. Their abilities include things like monstrous strength, enough to lift an entire tree with one hand, and blistering speed. They possess the magical power to summon many demons with a single command. Even should you cut their head off, they'll just grow a new body overnight. Perfect Memento's Trick Sense notes that while there are many yokai who can match them in one category, it is only vampires who can boast of prowess in all of them. On the other hand, they have many weaknesses, including sunlight and an inability to cross moving water. One might also consider garlic and silver as potential weaknesses, but their efficacy is unclear. If nothing else, we can say they're not bothered by crosses at all. As a point of mythological crossover, vampires are called Kyuketsuki in Japan and literally means blood-sucking Oni, and so they share some weaknesses with their Oni cousins. In particular, it seems that touching roasted beans causes their skin to burn. That said, in Silent Thunder and Blue, when Amelia touched Patchouli's trap, her burnt hand heals almost instantly, so not much of a weakness, really. In addition, Ramilia has been shown walking around daytime with just a parasol and doesn't seem bothered much by light reflecting off the lake. In Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red, Patchouli proposes that the supposed weaknesses might just be decoys, covering for her true fatal weakness, but this theory is as of yet unproven. The entry for vampires and Perfect Memento in Strict Sense notes that they have emerged only within the last few centuries, but real-world European vampire lore dates back over 1,000 years, so they don't seem too strongly linked. Seeing as Vlad Tepes, the basis for Bram Stoker's Dracula, serves as the basis for modern depictions of vampires, it seems appropriate to associate them with when he lived in the 15th century. Heartfelt. Fantasy Maiden Squadron. Conversation theme for the final part. It's one of the most dramatic songs from Akyuu's Untouched score, so I focused on making the chorus shine. It pays off some of the foreshadowing from the title screen, so it really feels like we're approaching the finale, doesn't it? There's not a lot of songs left. Oh yeah, they're okay. No, there's 11 left. Okay, Vengeful Spirits. Generally speaking, any spirit that holds a grudge binding them to the mortal realm, also known as Onryo. Within Toho, the term's usage is somewhat nebulous. Typically, vengeful spirits is used to refer to spirits remaining in old Hell. Hell used to be full of them, but they were left behind once Hell itself relocated. The above-ground yokai made a deal with the Oni, recognizing their underground society in return for sealing the spirits away. Additionally, Satori, taking residence in the Palace of Earth Spirits built atop Blazing Hell, was tasked with managing them. In other words, some or possibly all the spirits sent to Hell could be defined as vengeful spirits. This notion is reinforced by Komachi and Wildhorn Hermit, who stated that need is stayed in Hell until they've realized the weight of their sins. On the other hand, in Satori Animism, Patchouli mentions that spirits unable to cross the Sanzu River become vengeful spirits. In this context, there are phantoms that have been removed from the cycle of reincarnation because they have not been judged by the Yama. And in Symposium of Post-Mysticism, Kaneko states that vengeful spirits are a kind of phantom and are basically the same thing, but phantoms that come from humans who gave into malice or carry a strong grudge and stray from the cycle of reincarnation by remaining a phantom eternally are called vengeful spirits. These two perspectives differ greatly on whether or not vengeful spirits exist within the cycle of reincarnation. That said, we can reconcile this by suggesting that vengeful spirit as a term encompasses a broad range of entities. At the very least, both perspectives view vengeful spirits as inherently evil, spreading their malice around them. The danger of this is exposited exposited into great detail in Symposium of Post-Mysticism. To wit, it is their ability to possess people that makes them so frightening. If they possess a human, they will drive them to hold grudges against their fellows, while if they possess a yokai, their very existence can be overwritten by the spirits. Either outcome would be extremely dangerous. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, they first appeared during Mystic, with regular appearances from then on. In the essay arc, an emphasis was placed upon the Symposium of Post-Mysticism perspective, heightening the sense of urgency slightly compared to the original game. Okay. The Dream the Sheep See, Labyrinth of Nightmares. The theme that plays when Team Makrata is conversing. It includes a couple phrases from Miko's theme, Bottled Sheep. I created it with the image of mysterious underwater ruins in mind, like the kind you'd see in fantasy stories. It was fun making a song for enemy conversation. Oh. Waterfall of Nine Heavens. The name of a waterfall on Yokai Mountain. It serves as the backdrop to Stage 4 of Mountain of Faith. The term Nine Heavens, Q10, has a variety of interpretations, but here it probably refers to size. True to its name, this seemingly endless waterfall is truly impressive. There's a small space behind the waterfall that houses Momiji's battalion. In fact, in-game you can see the various grunt enemies popping out from behind the waterfall. While it's uncertain who specifically named it, considering that Stage 3 is named the Untrodden Valley, it seems likely that these names were given by human trespassers, overwhelmed by the sight of such wonders. It is a pretty powerful name. Oops. The Fantasy Maiden Wars preview version. Song that plays during the epilogue of the Mystic chapter. By modifying Fantasy Maiden Wars, the opening theme, I tried to create something that sounded like an anime preview, or perhaps commercial music. Reading the text aloud in your head might lend itself to a different experience. Yatagarasu. A god from Japanese mythology, also known in Chinese mythology as the Sanzuru. Really now. Though interpreted in many different ways over the years, he is generally depicted as a three-legged crow and regarded as a god of the sun. In Toho, he is a god whose blessing is bestowed upon Utsu by Kaneko. As a sun god, he is treated as though he has the power to control nuclear fusion. For more information on Kaneko and Utsu's intentions, please refer to the respective entries. The Rippling Scarlet Sea of Emotion. The ending of the Scarlet chapter. Calm like gentle waves. As something of a period at the end of this story, I try to create a song that was enjoyable in its own terms. Truthfully, I'm not very good at creating this kind of music, but I'm a fan of the vibe, so I managed to make it without too much trouble. While working on it, I tried to increase the tempo just for fun, and it transformed to a super cute tune. That's a story for another time. Yokai Mountain. The name of a mountain against Sokyo. When people talk about the mountain, they generally mean this one. It's a sacred mountain that ancient yokai and gods live, with their own independent civilization centered around Tengu culture. The most common yokai residing there are Tengu and Kappa, who have organized into a highly structured and technologically advanced society. They have a strong sense of community and will ruthlessly expel any intruders upon their land. As a result of all this, intel about the goings-on rarely leak out of the rest against Sokyo. Very little of Akyuu's information about them in Perfect Memento and Strict Sense rises above the level of rumors. That said, Perfect Memento and Strict Sense was written prior to the events of Mountain of Faith. Since then, and especially after the Moria Shrine became a part of the Mountain Society, their relationship with the outsiders has changed considerably. According to Kane and Cage and Lunatic Runegate, Yokai Mountain seems to have been the original Mount Yatsugatake before it was raised by Konohana Sakuya Hime. Considering Yatsugatake, I could probably pronounce that better. Yatsugatake was said to be larger than Mount Fuji in the past. It leads one to ponder all sorts of strange questions. Like, how did such a big mountain even fit against Sokyo? Is the Moria Shrine okay being so high up? How do they handle transportation for visitors from the human village? We know how they do that now. Stuff like that. Although that's true, the mountain almost always means Yokai Mountain. It's far from the only mountain against Sokyo. For example, the Hill of the Nameless is described as a small mountain located opposite to the Yokai Mountain. Hakude Shrine also sits atop an elevated area, allowing it to overlook the rest against Sokyo. True. Alright, we got a couple more songs. Toward the Clear Blue Skies. The Scarlet Chapter's credits theme. The girls' battle has only just begun. That's the idea I ran with while making this. We're only at the end of the first chapter, so there's a lot more to come. I wanted to put a smile on your face at the chapter's end, so when the idea of a credits theme came up, I already had this arrangement cooking in my head. Congrats on clearing the Scarlet Chapter. The Opened Prison and Heart. Sakuya Chapter's ending theme. The piano and acoustic guitar create a soft atmosphere. One of the main themes of the Scarlet Chapter is depicting Sakuya's development, and the song was inspired by how much she's grown. I like when Sakuya grew as a character. She became like it's like she uncorked her brain, and some of her brain goo like kind of came out of her ears. When you're stiff, you know, beginning and ending with a mystical daydream. The ending of the Mystic Chapter. I arranged it in the same vein as the Scarlet Chapter's ED, capturing the essence of the original track while converting it to the Fantasy Maiden, where style was giving me some trouble. So I mixed in Mountain of Faith's ending, Shrine at the Foot of the Mountain. I kept it to my usual style, and I think I managed to maintain the atmosphere of the story sections. By the time you reach the song in game, I figured you might be physically and mentally exhausted, so I aimed for a subtle flavor that'd be light on your ears. Now, the thing is, Yukari as a fight is a bitch. But I have to imagine Yukari as a fight on higher difficulties is an omega bitch. With the arrival of spring, cherry blossoms float in the breeze. Mystic Chapter's credits theme. Compared to the Scarlet Chapter, our development abilities have clearly leveled up. It helps that several staff members are big fans of Moth and PCB. We've also all grown more familiar with the production process. To that end, I'm sure you'll find the Eternity Chapter even more exciting. She can revive Ron on Lunatic. How much health does she revive with? The sceneries intersect in purple. The ending of the Eternity Chapter. Talk about plain. I've had the privilege of working on the epilogues for both the prior chapters, but to be honest, I don't think their music leaves much of an impact. If I had to give a reason, is that these kinds of strategy games take a long time to play. After spending several hours taking down the boss, you transition straight into lengthy dialogue segments. Thinking of it from a player's perspective, I don't think you'd want an exhausting song at that point. I'd rather you soak in the beautiful art and writing in the afterglow of a battle. This too was one of the music's roles. Full and map attack. Well, how much is full? Gazing up at the endless space. The Eternity Chapter's credits theme, a monument to the enormity of your journey from the depths of the earth all the way to the moon. Seeing as the Eternity Chapter ends how it does, I made a song that doesn't insist upon itself. It doesn't insist upon itself too much. Long scenes of talking require a suitable level of attention, you see. Why is that positioned in the library after the credits for the fourth game? Full health, full HP. Yes, I'm asking what her full health is. And thus the flowers of fantasy blooms. The ending of the final chapter. A long battle comes to a close, and everyone returns to their everyday lives. I'm sure the players must be tired too, so as usual I went for a subtle tune. Despite my poor writing skills, I appreciate you reading this far. This game has reached its conclusion, but we couldn't have come this far without everyone who played this far, and all the wonderful companions we've made along the way. Congratulations on completing the game. Awakening. The final chapter's credits theme. I named it Awakening to signify the end of the dream. If this world full of all sorts of entertainment, I thank you for choosing to play this game all the way through to the end. For a game development perspective, it was pretty reckless for such a small team to take on so much work. Even so, we were able to see it through thanks to our dependable team, the enduring brilliance of the original games, and above all, to everyone still playing. So once again, let me express my heartfelt gratitude. And that's it. That's all I got. I'm missing some music tracks that show up in Marissa's Route / New Game Plus, and I'm missing 2 Chronicle entries that show up in New Game Plus as well. But yeah. That is everything in the glossary and everything I currently have in the music room in the Chronicle. Cool. Great game. I give it a 4 out of 10. So, the future of this game, for me, at some point in time, I don't know when, it will not be soon. It will not be soon, but it will be at some point. I am going to return to this game I am probably going to. I want to install a couple mods that basically make Kadamas. I want to install a mod to make the Kadamas text restored. I want to install a mod to give infinite cost. And the reason for that is because I want to bring the new Game Plus units that you don't get to use for dialogue. The game is going to be a bit of a curb stomp, as I'm sure you could expect. I could play it on hard mode, but I don't know. I feel like I'd rather just play it on normal again and use it as a cleanup to get all, because I want to get all the intermission dialogue. I want to get all the Makuta congratulates your 50 kills. I want to get all that. I don't really want to be bogged down by trying to beat a higher difficulty. So I'd rather it be more of a leisurely run like that. But again, it's going to be a while before I do that, because while I like this game, I've been playing this game since October when it came out. And we're currently nearing the end of March. So, yeah. It'll be some time before I do it. But I do want to do it, so I most likely will do it. Just because the additional stuff I think is worth seeing. If you like this game and you like the original characters and just the way they write characters in this game in general. There's also some new music that we'll be able to hear. Not very many, but a couple will slip in. And that's about it. So, there you go. What a shame. Akyuu, I read everything. Also, we might have to spam loading so we can get all the suspend conversations, but I don't know. Getting those is kind of annoying. That's all. Fantasy Maiden Wars, Dream of the Strayed Dreamer. Farewell for today. Until the day I open you once more, I bid you adieu when we dream again.